My name is Tang Weiwei, and my life has been anything but simple. 3 months ago, I divorced my husband Xiao Yanxi. It wasn't easy. I had to fight for 3 days and nights, even dragging a male classmate into the mess just to force his family to agree. But I had no choice. In my previous life, that marriage killed me. Literally. Let me explain. I was reborn. In my first life, I was a university graduate who never got the chance to chase her dreams. My parents died on duty, and their last wish was for me to settle down as a good wife and mother. My 4 older brothers took that wish seriously. My eldest brother, Tang Jiwen, didn't even ask. He just handed me a marriage certificate one day and told me I was now married to his war buddy's cousin, Xiao Yanxi, a military officer. I went to the Xiao family in the capital alone. His parents never liked me. I lived in the basement with a housekeeper for over 10 days before Xiao Yanxi even came home. And when he did, he was like a wolf.
Strong, yes.
Handsome, yes. But he never treated me gently. We barely talked before he'd drag me to bed. The worst part was his childhood friend, Xiao Shuiying. After I followed him to the military base, she made my life a nightmare. She turned every military wife against me, isolated me completely. When I was 8 months pregnant, I got kidnapped by criminals. I could have survived, me and my baby both. But Xiao Shuiying deliberately led the rescue team away from us. Then she pressed a bloody pillow over my face and whispered, "Tang Weiwei, you don't deserve Xiao Yanxi.
Yusti.
Once you're dead, he and I can be together." She murdered me and got a second-class merit award for it. My soul watched her receive that medal. The rage was so intense it woke me up, back in time, 1 month into my marriage before I'd gone to the military base. So I fought like hell to get that divorce. And I got it. Now here I was, 3 months later, sitting in a guest house on Lushan Island while my eldest brother and his wife tried to control my life again. My sister-in-law, Zhuang Xiumei, had tricked me. She told me we were coming here, so I could find a job. Instead, she'd signed me up for a military matchmaking event, a group blind date with about 100 officers. "You're divorced. You're second-hand goods," she said with a bright smile. "You'll never find a decent man in the city. We got you this spot out of love." I wanted to scream. This woman had been scheming to push me out of the family for years, just so she could keep everything our parents left behind. She didn't care about my happiness. She wanted me gone. I refused at first, but then my brother threatened me. He said the name was already registered, and if I didn't show up, the military would investigate me. I couldn't let that happen. If they dug into my background, they'd find out I was once married to Xiao Yanxi. And the way our divorce ended, he had looked at me with cold fury and said, "Tang Weiwei, you'd better never let me see you again, or I'll make sure you die under me." So I agreed to go, but on one condition. After this event, no matter what happened, they had to stop interfering with my life. My sister-in-law tried to make me wear her old pink dress. She said soldiers like girls in pink. I told her I was too fat for her clothes. The truth was, I refused to dress like some innocent maiden. I was a divorced woman, and I wasn't going to pretend otherwise. I picked a tight black dress my younger brother had brought from Hong Kong and walked out looking like a black widow. On the bus to the military hall, I met a cheerful girl named Mei Yuanyuan. She was 20, a little chubby and friendly. We hit it off quickly. As we arrived, she grabbed my arm and warned me. "My cousin told me, you can go after anyone tonight, but there's one man you absolutely must not touch." I was curious. Who? But before she could finish, a green military jeep pulled up to the entrance. The door opened, and a man in green uniform stepped out. My face went white. I covered my mouth, unable to speak. It was Xiao Yanxi, my ex-husband. How could he be here? Xiao Yanxi was supposed to be training at the Eastern Theater Command. How did he end up on this tiny island? My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. My mind went completely blank. "Weiwei? What's wrong?" Mei Yuanyuan waved her hand in front of my face. "Your face just went totally white." We weren't exactly being quiet. And sure enough, that sharp, cold gaze swept over in our direction. Xiao Yanxi stood there in his crisp military uniform, the stars on his shoulder gleaming under the lights. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with deep-set features and a handsome face, but the aura around him was ice-cold, like a mountain nobody dared to climb. Every girl who came for the matchmaking event was too scared to look at him directly. They'd steal a quick glance and then drop their heads, blushing. Mei Yuan got hit by that gaze too. She shivered and dragged me behind a pillar. "Wei Wei," she whispered. "That's him. The one my cousin warned me about. Xiao Yanxi. They call him the living king of hell around here. He transferred from the capital, and he came in as a regimental commander. The military governor is never around, so right now he's basically the most powerful man on this island. Regimental commander?" My heart clenched. He'd been promoted. In my previous life, when I followed him to the Eastern Theater, he was only a battalion commander. Apparently divorcing me had been good for his career. Together we hurt each other. Apart, he thrived. Nearby, the event organizer, Officer Zhang, was greeting him with a big smile. "Commander Xiao, welcome. The women attending tonight are all top quality, carefully screened. Every single one is an unmarried young woman, guaranteed." Xiao Yanxi's expression didn't change. He just repeated one word flatly. "Unmarried." His voice wasn't loud, but the pressure behind it was suffocating. Officer Zhang nodded frantically. "Yes, yes. All of them. Clean backgrounds, absolutely unmarried." I pressed myself against the pillar, my palms slick with cold sweat. That word, unmarried, hit me like a needle through the heart. Did he recognize me? Was he saying that on purpose? My thoughts spiraled. But wait, divorced and single still counts as unmarried, right? Legally, I'm single. That means unmarried.
Yes.
Definitely. I tried to convince myself, but my mind kept flashing back to 3 months ago. To get that divorce, I'd said terrible things. I called him an uneducated brute, told him he couldn't compare to my college classmates. The uglier my words got, the darker his face became. His family elders lost all composure and screamed at me to get out. That's why I ended up crawling back to my brother's house with nothing. I peeked around the pillar and stole a glance at him. He wasn't looking this way at all. He was listening to Officer Zhang's report, his profile sharp and cold as a blade. I patted my chest. Maybe he really didn't recognize me. I was dressed completely differently today, all in black with makeup on. Nothing like the sweet, soft girl I used to be. He couldn't have recognized me. No way. "Everyone inside, please. The event is about to begin," Officer Zhang called out. The seating arrangement was simple. Everyone sat at round tables, ate dinner together, then there would be dancing afterward. Mei Yuan dragged me along, and because we were the last ones in, almost every seat was taken. Only 2 chairs were left. Right next to the leadership table. Right next to Xiao Yanxi. My feet froze to the floor. I didn't want to sit there. It was too close. Close enough that I could smell him, that familiar cold scent, tinged with gunpowder. "Come on, Wei Wei. Those are the only seats left." Mei Yuan didn't notice my panic and pulled me forward. Before I could protest, she pushed me into the chair. It was over. My heart sank. I sat stiff as a board, back perfectly straight, head down as low as I could get it, wishing I could shrink into a tiny ball and disappear. I thought I felt his cold gaze brush over me. Sitting there was like sitting on a bed of needles. "Wei Wei, look. The leadership table has way better food. They even have braised pork." Mei Yuan was already eyeing the dishes at the next table, her eyes sparkling. I had zero appetite. All I wanted was for this nightmare to end so I could grab a boat ticket and leave this island forever. Officer Zhang took the stage with a tin megaphone. "Quiet down, everyone. The matchmaking event officially begins. First, let's give a warm round of applause to Commander Xiao Yanxi, who took time from his busy schedule to join us tonight." Applause filled the hall. I clapped along weakly, going through the motions. Xiao Yanxi stood up. "No pleasantries, no small talk." He said one sentence. "Welcome to Lushan Island. I hope you all have a pleasant evening." Then he sat back down. The whole time, he never once looked my way. My heart eased just a tiny bit. I kept telling myself he didn't recognize me. As the event got going, the atmosphere warmed up. Male officers started walking over to the women's tables, introducing themselves and offering toasts. Mei Yuan, outgoing as always, was soon chatting happily with several officers at the next table. I just sat there, quiet and alone. Not because I wasn't attractive. Actually, the opposite. I stood out too much. My tight black dress among all those pink and red outfits made me look like a dark, elegant tulip. But for some reason, every officer who thought about approaching me seemed to sense a kind of invisible killing intent around my seat. Like if they got too close, their legs would be broken. Nobody came near me.
I was perfectly happy with that.
My plan was to sit quietly until the whole thing was over. But Officer Zhang had other ideas. After making his rounds through the hall, his eyes landed on the strange, black widow, sitting alone in the corner. Officer Zhang looked puzzled. Here I was, the prettiest girl at the whole event by far, and not a single man had come to talk to me. He wasn't about to let that slide. He marched over with his tin megaphone and a big grin. "Hey there, comrade. Why are you sitting all by yourself?" Every pair of eyes in the hall turned toward me. My scalp went numb.
I'm
Not feeling well, I managed. Not feeling well? That won't do. He looked all concerned. Did we not take good care of you? Here, let me get Commander Xiao to— No. I grabbed his arm so fast I nearly pulled it off.
I'm fine.
I'm just
Shy.
I'm not used to events like this. This man was going to be the death of me. Shy? That's wonderful. His smile got even bigger. Our officers love shy, quiet women. Come on. Since you're too bashful to introduce yourself, let me do it for you. Before I could stop him, he dragged me to my feet and pushed me up onto the stage. Everyone look here. This is Comrade Tang Weiwei, the flower of tonight's event. Beautiful face, excellent education, just a little bit shy. So you gentlemen need to take the initiative. I stood on that stage with hundreds of eyes on me, my toes curling inside my shoes from sheer embarrassment. I felt like merchandise being auctioned off in public. But the thing that terrified me most was Xiao Yanxi's gaze. It was locked on me, unblinking, examining, probing, like an X-ray trying to see through my skin and bones. A chill crawled up my spine. I wanted to run, but my legs were heavy as lead. When nobody stepped forward, Officer Zhang clapped his hands to save me from the awkwardness. All right, dinner is over. Now for the part everyone's been waiting for, dancing. Music, please. Upbeat music blasted through the hall. I stood on that stage like a lonely black statue, completely out of place. I couldn't stay another second.
Y de su fukata.
I took a deep breath and turned to slip off the side of the stage. But the moment I turned, I slammed straight into a wall of solid, burning hot muscle. It was so hard my nose stung and my chest ached. I instinctively rubbed the sore spot and started to apologize. I'm sore. The word died in my throat. I looked up. A pair of eyes cold enough to skin me alive stared down at me. Xiao Yanxi. He'd somehow moved right behind me without making a sound. The air pressure around him was terrifying. His gaze was like a poison blade, slicing into my heart one cut at a time. I froze completely. It felt like every drop of blood in my body turned to ice. His threat from the divorce echoed in my ears. Tang Weiwei, you'd better never let me see you again, or I'll make sure you die under me. Right now, I believed it. I truly believed he could kill me. My lips trembled. I couldn't form a single word. Officer Zhang saw the tension and rushed over, trying to smooth things out. Oh, Commander Xiao. Did you want to invite Comrade Tang for a dance? Xiao Yanxi didn't answer. Dead silence. Zhang turned to me awkwardly. Comrade Tang, who would you like to dance with? Just tell me, I'll call them over. He was pushing me straight into the fire. I don't know how to dance, I whispered, my voice barely audible. You don't. A voice like a block of ice fell from above my head. Xiao Yanxi stepped closer. That familiar scent, gunpowder and cold pine, wrapped around me like a cage. If you don't know how to dance, then why are you here? Every word was a chunk of ice hitting my body. I was shaking all over. He was interrogating me. He wanted to destroy me. My fingers gripped the edge of my skirt so hard my nails nearly broke the skin. What could I say? That I was tricked into coming? That I never wanted to see him? He wouldn't believe any of it. He'd just think I was playing games again, and he'd want me dead even more. Out of pure desperation, I gave in. You're right. I shouldn't have come. My voice cracked. There was a tremor in it, and a hurt I didn't even notice myself. Officer Zhang watched from the side, feeling sorry for me. He was thinking this pretty girl just happened to be a little cold, so why was the commander being so harsh? He'd heard the rumors that the new commander's wife had recently run off with someone because she couldn't stand his temper. He figured that explained a lot. Xiao Yanxi's dark, bottomless eyes stayed on me for a full 10 seconds. That heavy gaze felt like it could crush me. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, when I was sure he was about to explode right there in front of everyone, he suddenly turned around. Without a word, he walked straight toward the exit with long, steady strides.
He just left.
Everyone in the hall was stunned. Officer Zheng's face went pale. The event had barely started the dancing portion, and the highest-ranking officer had walked out. He scrambled after him, shouting, "Commander! Commander Xiao!"
Wait.
Did we do something wrong? His voice faded into the distance. The moment Xiao Yanxi was gone, that crushing pressure over the entire room vanished instantly. But all the strength drained from my body at the same time. My legs gave out, and I stumbled backward, collapsing into the nearest chair. I grabbed the cup of lukewarm water from the table and gulped down several cups in a row. It barely calmed the violent pounding in my chest. Wei Wei, are you okay? Mei Yuanyuan squeezed through the crowd and rushed to my side. She saw how pale I was and grabbed my shoulders. I shook my head. I couldn't speak. She leaned close and whispered, "Were you scared by Commander Xiao just now?" My cousin used to be an accountant at the Eastern Theater Command before she transferred here. She still has connections there. She told me, "This Commander Xiao is a living nightmare. Nobody in the military isn't afraid of him. He married a wife not long ago, but she couldn't handle his temper and ran away. That's why he's even more twisted now, especially toward women." Some girls nearby overheard and gathered around, whispering.
That was terrifying.
Even from across the room, my legs went weak. He's so handsome, though. What a waste with that awful temper. Then one girl rolled her eyes. This is all his runaway wife's fault. Why'd she have to leave? She should have just stayed and kept that demon locked down. Exactly. She freed herself and let this monster loose on the rest of us. What an idiot. If you marry a man like that, you'd better have the ability to tame him. If you can't, don't run and dump the problem on everyone else. I sat there with my head down, my hair covering my face, so nobody could see my expression. They were calling me an idiot, the runaway wife who couldn't handle her husband. If only they knew. I slowly clenched my fists. I wasn't an idiot. I just wanted to stay alive. Wei Wei, you still look awful, Mei Yuanyuan said, holding my arm. Want me to take you home? Home? Back to the guest house where my sister-in-law would interrogate me about the matchmaking results? No thanks.
I've fine.
Just stuffy in here. I need some fresh air. I stepped outside. The night wind hit my face and my stomach lurched. I'd been feeling this way for the past month. Tired all the time, nauseous, my stomach always upset. My younger brother's girlfriend had told me to see a doctor, but I had no money. My parents left me an inheritance, but it was being held by Uncle Zhou. He was a stubborn, principled man who followed my parents to the letter. I could only access the money after I had children. Honestly, I understood. Uncle Zhou was protecting me. The moment I touched that money, my sisters-in-law would swarm like vultures. My brothers would look the other way for the sake of their wives and kids. So until I had my own job and income, Uncle Zhou wouldn't give me a cent, and he wouldn't let things blow up between me and my brothers' families. Especially that second sister-in-law. I still couldn't believe she was the one who ended up with my second brother and had his child. I was lost in these thoughts when I heard footsteps behind me. A thick wave of tobacco smell hit my nose and made my stomach flip. "You're Tang Weiwei, right?" I fought down the nausea and turned around. The man was maybe 5'5", looked at least 40, dressed neatly enough, but with yellow-stained teeth when he smiled. "I'm Huang Fuxing, your sister-in-law Zhuang Xiumei's uncle," he said, pulling out a photo of himself with my sister-in-law. I just got back from sea. I bought a fishing boat recently. Business is pretty good. Your brother and his wife told me you don't like the guest house because there's no hot water. My house is big. Come over tonight, take a nice bath, get some rest. I didn't want to go. Even if he was my sister-in-law's uncle, he was no blood relation of mine. Going to a strange man's house to bathe? How did that make any sense? My brother didn't mention visiting any relatives. Thank you, but the event isn't over. I should head back inside. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my arm. His expression changed. Wei Wei, your sister-in-law told me you're a divorced woman. A woman like you. Even if you go back in there, no man is going to want you. Why go in and embarrass yourself? Better to come with me. After all, why let good things go to outsiders when we can keep it in the family? Wei Wei, I'm ready. Mei Yuan burst out of nowhere, pried his hand off my arm, and looped hers through mine with a bright smile. I talked to Officer Zhang, and he gave me a ticket. We can go get soda at the service shop. Let's go. I understood immediately.
She was rescuing me.
I nodded and looked at Huang Fuxing calmly. Uncle, I'm going with my friend. My brother and sister-in-law are at the guest house. If you need anything, talk to them. His face darkened. It's this late, and you're going to drink soda? You have no sense of womanly virtue. Womanly virtue? I was divorced. And this was the new society. Why was he talking like some feudal relic? With Mei Yuan there, I didn't bother arguing. I just said flatly, you're my sister-in-law's uncle, not mine. How I conduct myself is none of your business. My friend and I are in a hurry. Goodbye. I grabbed Mei Yuan's arm and walked toward the main road. Something was off about all this. My sister-in-law never mentioned having an uncle on this island. Now, this man suddenly appeared, and only when my brother wasn't around? That was suspicious. I needed to ask my brother about it when my sister-in-law wasn't listening. If my brother was in on whatever scheme she was running, then maybe it was time to cut ties with him too. Meanwhile, outside the hall, in a green military jeep, Xiao Yanxi had just lit a cigarette. The red ember glowed in his dark eyes. In the driver's seat, a man in uniform with a gentler presence turned around. It was his sixth brother, Xiao Wenli. So, number 7, see anyone you liked in there? In the jeep outside, Xiao Yanxi sat in the back seat smoking in silence. His sixth brother, Xiao Wenli, was getting annoyed. Seriously, number 7. Divorcing that troublemaker was the best thing that ever happened to you. But you can't stay single forever. Look at Shuiying. She's been pulling strings, crying and begging to get transferred to this godforsaken island just to be near you. That kind of devotion, if you don't want it, plenty of men would kill for it. Xiao Yanxi finally reacted. He lifted his eyelids, his gaze cold as frost. Then give her to whoever wants her. I'm not interested, Xiao. Wenli tried a softer approach. Fine, you don't want her. But at least don't reject her so harshly. Give the girl some dignity. It's what Mom wants. She said you have to get Shuiying transferred here and placed in the field hospital. No, Xiao Yanxi's answer was instant. I'm not her father. I have no obligation. Then his eyes drifted to the car window, and he suddenly went still. I was out there, walking under the streetlights with Mei Yuan, laughing and talking in my tight black dress. His pupils shrank. He crushed out his cigarette so hard the hot ash fell on his uniform pants. He didn't even notice. Meanwhile, Mei Yuan was leading me toward a service shop near the military family quarters. She knew this island well from visiting as a kid. The shop stays open late because military wives need snacks for their kids at night. They sell drinks and pastries from the city. No ration tickets needed, just a bit pricey. Then she leaned in close, her eyes gleaming with gossip. My cousin knows so much dirt on Xiao Yanxi. I actually think the reason she got reassigned to this island was because she found out something about him, and that Xiao Shuiying. My heart dropped. In my past life, I knew Xiao Shuiying was his childhood sweetheart, but I never knew there were secrets between them. Secrets big enough to get someone transferred. What secrets? I grabbed her arm. My cousin saw it with her own eyes. 1 week before Xiao Yanxi's wedding, that Xiao Shuiying stripped naked and crawled into his bed in the middle of the night. Mei Yuan was painting the scene like she'd been there herself. Think about it, a hot-blooded man, a beautiful woman throwing herself at him like that. What do you think happened? My heart felt like someone was squeezing it in a fist. Of course I knew. Nobody knew better than me what Xiao Yanxi was like in bed. Wild, dominant, insatiable, like a wolf that could never be full. If Xiao Shuiying offered herself to him, there was no way he'd say no. In my past life, I only knew she liked him. I never knew they'd already gone that far. So while I was clueless, they had already been together. A bitter, suffocating feeling filled my chest. I couldn't stop myself from asking, my voice dry and rough.
Then,
Why did he marry someone else? If they'd already done that, why not marry Xiao Shuiying? Why go through my brother to marry me, a stranger from a faraway city he'd never even met? Oh, that's easy. Mei Yuanyuan slapped her thigh. It's because of their legal status. Xiao Shuiying is the orphan of his grandfather's old war comrade. She was raised in the Xiao family. Officially, she's listed as an adopted daughter and adopted sister. They were on the same household registration. In our country, even adopted siblings on the same registration can't legally marry, so that was it. He didn't choose not to marry her. He couldn't, which meant marrying me was just a tool, a way to get rid of his single status and shut people up. The bitterness in my chest spread deeper. Mei Yuanyuan sensed a mood getting heavy and quickly changed the subject. Forget about them. So tell me, out of all those men tonight, you really didn't like a single one? I shook my head and joked at my own expense.
I'm divorced.
Those fine military men wouldn't want me anyway. Stop that, she looked at me disapprovingly. You're gorgeous and educated, better than half the girls in that hall. Honestly, even paired with that demon king Xiao Yanxi, you'd be more than good enough. I choked on my own spit and started coughing violently. Me, matched with Xiao Yanxi?
God, no.
I barely escaped that man alive. I never wanted anything to do with him, ever again. Don't say things like that. My face was burning. She laughed so hard her eyes turned into crescents. Okay. You're right, that ice block. Whoever marries him is cursed. So what type do you actually like? Tell me, what type did I like? I had no answer. My eyes wandered and landed on a huge movie poster across from the service shop for the hit film Garlands at the Foot of the Mountain. There was a young officer on the poster, handsome with a touch of melancholy. I pointed at it. Someone like Zhao Mengsheng, I guess. Zhao Mengsheng? She followed my finger and gasped. Oh, so you like the pretty boy type, I laughed. My mood actually lightened for the first time all evening.
Yeah.
Pretty boys are nice. Young, good-looking, easy on the eyes. Mei Yuanyuan grinned even wider. Well, now I have to ask, was your ex-husband really that much worse than a pretty boy? Of course my ex-husband isn't a pretty boy, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Then certain images flashed through my mind, and my face turned bright red. I added without thinking, he's older, bad-tempered, and when he bullies you, he likes to make you cry. The second those words left my mouth, I wanted to die. What was I saying? Mei Yuanyuan's eyes went wide with shock and curiosity, ready to ask more questions. I grabbed her arm and practically dragged her into the service shop. Soda. Let's go buy soda. Neither of us noticed the tall figure standing in the shadows behind a pillar near the movie theater. Xiao Yanxi's cold gaze was fixed on that poster, the one I'd just pointed at. Pretty boy. Young. Good-looking. He chewed on those words, his jaw clenched tight, the temperature around him dropping to freezing. Doesn't.
No.
Her. Place. He hissed through his teeth. After we finished our drinks, it was late. I walked Mei Yuanyuan to her cousin's place, then headed back to the guest house alone. The island was quiet at night. The streetlights cast long yellow shadows, and the salty sea breeze rustled the leaves along the road. Then I noticed it. Footsteps behind me. Not too close, not too far, but always there, matching my pace. My heart jumped. I walked faster. The footsteps sped up too. The memory of my past life crashed over me, being kidnapped, dragged into the darkness, a hand pressed over my face while I couldn't breathe. The terror was exactly the same. My palms were slick with cold sweat. I didn't dare look back. I started running. The guest house was just ahead. One more turn, and I'd be there. I could see the light from the second floor. But the footsteps were getting closer. Any second now, a hand would grab my shoulder. Just as I lost my balance and was about to crash to the ground, a strong arm caught me around the waist. The world spun. Instead of hitting the pavement, I fell into a hard chest that smelled of cold pine. I whipped my head around. Xiao Yanci. He was the one following me this whole time? What happened? His brow was furrowed deep. He'd seen me running like my life depended on it. But the moment I saw his face, everything from my past life flooded back at once.
The kidnapping.
Xiao Shuiying suffocating me, dying without anyone coming to save me. All the pain, all the injustice, all the rage, it exploded inside me like a fire. This man. If it weren't for him, none of that would have happened to me. Let go. I shoved him as hard as I could, my voice shaking. I stumbled back a step and glared at him. Who asked you to care? He didn't budge an inch when I pushed him. His face turned dark as ink. But then something shifted behind his eyes, like he actually preferred me yelling at him over the polite, distant way I'd treated him like a stranger back at the hall. He hated when I acted cold and detached with him. I'm not caring about you, he said, his voice hard as ice. I just don't want you dying of stupidity on my island and ruining the military's reputation. That made me even angrier. Me, die of stupidity? In my last life, I died because I married him. Whether I'm stupid is none of your business. And besides, even at my dumbest, I'm still smarter than someone who can't even see the poisonous snake hiding right next to him. I meant Xiao Shuiying. But he didn't catch the reference. He just frowned harder. He seemed to relax slightly, seeing me sharp-tongued and feisty. Proof I was fine. But his tone stayed cold. I'll walk you back. Not a suggestion, a command. No, I shot back instantly. We're divorced. A single man and a single woman walking together at night. People will get the wrong idea. Wrong idea? He almost laughed, like I'd said the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard. He stepped closer, his presence crushing. But going to flirt with 100 men at a matchmaking event, that's perfectly fine. That hit a nerve. And then I remembered what Mei Yuanyuan told me about Xiao Shuiying climbing naked into his bed before our wedding. A wave of fury ripped through me. How dare he judge me? He was the one messing around with his adopted sister before he even married me. And now he questioned whether my going to a matchmaking event was appropriate? Whether it's appropriate is my business. I lifted my chin and stared right back at him. It has nothing to do with you. Commander Xiao, worry about yourself. His face went completely black. He looked at my stubborn, defiant expression, and I could practically see the rage boiling inside him. He'd followed me because I was a woman walking alone at night, scared half to death, and this was the thanks he got. Seems I was meddling where I shouldn't, he ground out. You think? I gave him a look that said exactly that. I turned and walked away without looking back. I needed to get as far from this man as possible, but I only made it a few steps before everything went dark. The world spun. All the strength drained from my body at once, and my stomach heaved with nausea. What was happening to me? I swayed, reached for the wall, but my hand grabbed nothing but air. I collapsed forward. Tang Weiwei. The last thing I heard before everything went dark was Xiao Yanci's angry shout. Then I fell into that same hard, familiar chest again. I didn't know what happened while I was unconscious. But apparently, the moment I fainted, Xiao Yanci scooped me up like I weighed nothing, threw me into his jeep, and raced to the military field hospital like a madman. He kicked open the door to the on-call room so hard it nearly flew off its hinges. Doctor, get out here. Now, the old military doctor and a young nurse had been dozing. They nearly jumped out of their skin. When they saw who it was, the island's terrifying new commander, eyes red with panic, carrying a woman in his arms, they were too shocked to speak. The young nurse tried to step forward to take my temperature. But even though I was unconscious, my body flinched at the unfamiliar touch, and a small, pained whimper escaped my throat. That was all it took. Xiao Yanci's face turned black as thunder. Be gentle, he snarled at the poor nurse. Can't you see she's in pain? The girl froze with her hand in the air, on the verge of tears. She hadn't even touched me yet. The old doctor had seen enough in his decades of military service to read the situation immediately. This wasn't just a comrade or a colleague. This was someone Xiao Yanxi cared about deeply. Why else would their famously cold, woman-avoiding commander be this frantic? He calmed things down and told Xiao Yanxi to lay me on the bed. Xiao Yanxi set me down so carefully, so gently, like I was made of glass. After a quick look, the doctor said he needed to draw blood. Xiao Yanxi refused on the spot. She's afraid of needles, he said flatly. End of discussion. He remembered. Back before our divorce, I'd caught a cold and refused to go to the hospital. He had to physically hold me down to get the injection. I cried so hard that time, and apparently, it had bothered him enough that he still remembered. The doctor sighed and offered to check my pulse the traditional way instead. Xiao Yanxi agreed, but stood there watching the doctor's fingers on my wrist like a hawk, ready to pounce if the old man caused me the slightest discomfort. The room went silent, just the ticking of the clock on the wall. The doctor's expression changed from calm to surprised to stunned to completely shocked. He'd found a slippery pulse, smooth and rolling like beads sliding across a plate. It was a pregnancy pulse, and from the strength of it, at least 3 months along.
Triplets. Boys.
The old doctor's mind was racing. I looked young and unmarried. An out-of-wedlock pregnancy during the Strike Hard campaign was a serious matter. It could destroy a woman's reputation, maybe even land her in prison. He glanced at Xiao Yanxi's desperate, protective behavior and figured the babies were probably his. But wait, the commander's wife had just left him. Did that mean they'd been having an affair? This was getting complicated. That's when I woke up. White ceiling. The sharp smell of disinfectant. A hospital? My memory snapped back to the last moment, arguing with Xiao Yanxi on the dark road, then everything going black. I turned my head, and there he was, standing right beside the bed. He brought me here? Since when was Xiao Yanxi this kind?
Infine.
I want to go back to the guest house, I said immediately, sitting up. My voice was rough, but my mind was clear. I didn't want to be here, especially not in the same room as him. The old doctor quickly pulled his hand away from my wrist. Seeing how guarded and resistant I was, it only confirmed his suspicion. I didn't want anyone knowing about the pregnancy. He cleared his throat and stood up, turning to Xiao Yanxi. Nothing serious, he said calmly. Long-term malnutrition and mild anemia. She got too worked up emotionally and fainted. I'll prescribe some medicine to build up her blood and give her a glucose strip. Some rest and she'll be fine. But behind that casual diagnosis, the doctor was already planning. He needed to find a private moment to tell the commander the real situation. This was a matter of life and death, 3 lives, actually, and someone had to protect me. When Xiao Yanxi heard malnutrition and anemia, his already dark expression got even darker. Xiao Yanxi told the doctor to go get the medicine. The old doctor left with the nurse, and suddenly it was just the 2 of us in that hospital room. The air turned to ice. He walked up and looked down at me, his voice cutting like broken glass. Tang Weiwei, you really are something. Taking such great care of yourself that you end up malnourished and anemic. That sarcasm stabbed right into my heart.
My eyes stung.
He had no idea. Living with my brother and sister-in-law, I was barely surviving. The household food was rationed, and Zhuang Xiumei treated every bite I ate like I was stealing from her children. She claimed there wasn't enough rice and make me go hungry. When I complained to my brother, he blamed me. He'd even take his wife and kids to eat at the state-run restaurant while I was left behind, stretching every last cent trying to find a job. Of course, I was malnourished. Of course, I was anemic. All the anger and hurt welled up, and I shot Xiao Yanxi the fiercest glare I could manage. This was all his fault. If I hadn't had to fight so hard to escape him, I never would have ended up like this. He stared at my furious expression, and strangely, the anger seemed to drain from his face. His jaw relaxed slightly, like he was relieved I still had enough fight in me to glare at him. Then the door opened. The young nurse came in carrying a tray with a glucose 4 bag and a needle. The moment I saw that gleaming metal needle, every muscle in my body locked up. I was terrified of needles. In my last life, and this one. The sharp pain of a needle breaking skin always dragged me back to that moment, Xiao Shuiying pressing the pillow over my face, that piercing, suffocating despair. "I'm not getting an injection," I said. My voice was hoarse, but absolutely firm. The nurse looked helpless. "But the doctor said your blood sugar is dangerously low. You need glucose immediately or you'll faint again." I knew my body was in bad shape, but I refused to let that needle touch me. My mind raced, and then I remembered something. "You can give me oral glucose solution instead. It works the same way." Ironically, it was Xiao Yanxi who taught me that. In my past life, I'd gotten sick and refused injections so stubbornly that he finally gave up and had a military doctor prepare oral supplements. He fed them to me himself. Funny how the knowledge I got from the man I ran away from was now saving me again. The nurse hesitated. "We have the oral kind, but it's expensive. We don't usually." She looked toward Xiao Yanxi for help. He'd been standing there silently, watching me use every scrap of medical knowledge he'd ever taught me just to avoid a needle. I could tell he found it both infuriating and amusing. "Get it for her," he said. His voice was low and final. "The best you have. Put it on my medical account." The nurse nodded frantically and practically ran out of the room. She came back minutes later with a box of glass-sealed oral glucose vials. I grabbed one, twisted off the cap, tilted my head back, and drank it straight down. Then a second. Then a third. The sweet liquid slid into my stomach, and slowly the dizziness and weakness began to fade. Xiao Yanxi watched me drink every drop. Only when some color returned to my lips did the tension finally leave his shoulders. The nurse, meanwhile, was looking back and forth between us with sparkling eyes, the domineering commander hovering over the pale, stubborn beauty. I could practically see the romantic drama playing out in her head. Alarm bells screamed in my mind. If I stayed any longer, by tomorrow morning the entire island would be calling me Xiao Yanxi's woman. I'd fought too hard to break free from him to let that happen. I threw off the blanket and swung my legs off the bed. "I'm going back to the guest house." I stood up too fast. Stars burst across my vision, and I swayed. An iron grip caught my arm instantly. "What are you doing?" Xiao Yanxi's face went cold, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. "You want to faint again? Once wasn't enough. Let go of me." I tried to shake him off but couldn't budge his hand. Everything I'd been holding back, the anger, the fear, the injustice, erupted all at once. "Xiao Yanxi, do you even know what you're doing? Do you know what time period this is? It's the Strike Hard campaign. They're cracking down on moral misconduct harder than ever. You've got a single woman alone with you in a hospital in the middle of the night, with people watching. Do you want me dragged through the streets in shame? Do you want me thrown in prison? Do you want me dead?" I was screaming by the end, my chest heaving, my eyes burning red. He looked stunned for a second, then let out a bitter laugh. That sharp little mouth of mine again, always finding the exact words to corner him. But then his gaze flickered to the nurse and her shining, gossip-hungry eyes, and something shifted in his expression. He finally understood my panic. In this era, a woman's reputation was more important than her life. And there was something else, something I didn't know. He hadn't submitted our divorce papers. He'd never turned them in. Legally, we were still husband and wife. If the outside world found out that his wife had just attended a matchmaking event and was now alone with him in a hospital at midnight, what would happen to me then? It was late. No buses running. As much as I hated to admit it, I couldn't walk back in my condition. Xiao Yanxi took a deep breath, and his face turned back to stone. "Then you're taking my car. Look at yourself. Can you even make it to the guest house on your own?" He was right. I hated that he was right. I bit my lip hard and let my shoulders drop. I had no choice. Meanwhile, back at the guest house, my sister-in-law was having the time of her life. Zhuang Xiaomei sat on the bed cracking sunflower seeds and humming a happy tune. She'd already given my room key to Huang Fuxing. Her plan was simple. If no military officer wanted me, she'd hand me over to her uncle. He'd made good money fishing these past 2 years, and she was counting on a fat bride price to help raise her kids. My brother Tang, Jiwen, kept glancing at the clock. It was past 10, and I wasn't back yet. He was worried, but Zhuang Xiumei put on a concerned face and told him not to fret. Maybe some officer had taken a liking to me. When my brother hesitated about Huang Fuxing being too old, she turned on the waterworks. She accused him of looking down on her family, called me a parasite who'd been living off them since she married and blamed me for ruining the marriage with the Xiao family and hurting our second brother's career. She said they needed to marry me off fast, for my own good. My brother actually started to waver. He had 3 sons. Money was tight. If I married a man with money, I could help support him later. That was exactly why he'd married me off to the Xiao family in the first place. Next door, Huang Fuxing heard everything through the thin walls. He coughed twice, his signal that he wanted me and nobody else. Zhuang Xiumei laughed and pulled at my brother's arm, assuring him her uncle would satisfy me in every way. Then she spotted car headlights outside, guessed I was back, and yanked the light cord. Quick, pretend we're sleeping. Can't let her think we planned this. My brother went along with it. Downstairs, I had no idea I was walking straight into a trap. All I wanted was to get away from the man beside me. The second the car stopped, I unbuckled and jumped out like I was fleeing a plague. "I'm going up," I said without looking back. One step, and his hand clamped around my wrist from behind. Hot as a branding iron, just like it always was. "What are you doing tomorrow?" His voice was cold and heavy, barely containing his anger. He'd driven me all the way back, and I couldn't even manage a thank you before running. My wrist bones felt like they were about to crack. I struggled once, couldn't break free, and went still. I stared straight ahead at the guest house's shabby door. Buying a boat ticket. Going back to South City. Not one extra word. I yanked my hand free and ran inside. I didn't look back once. Xiao Yanxi stood there watching me disappear around the staircase corner, his fists clenched, veins bulging on the backs of his hands. Back to South City? She's still trying to run? He hadn't even submitted the divorce papers. We were still legally married, and she wanted to run back to South City and cut him off completely? He slammed his car door so hard the whole Jeep shook, floored the gas pedal, and the tires screamed against the pavement as he tore off into the night. I reached my room and immediately knew something was wrong. The light was on, and sitting on my bed, was Huang Fuxing. He was holding my clothes in his hands, looking completely at ease, like he owned the place. My blood went cold, then hot. "Uncle, what are you doing here?" I marched over and snatched my clothes from his hands. "This is my room. Get out." He clearly didn't expect me to fight back. His face darkened. A man his age being yelled at by a young woman. He couldn't stomach it. His eyes crawled over me, greedy and undisguised. "A divorced woman with this kind of temper? You think you can talk to a man like that?" He grabbed my wrist. "We're family. Me sitting on your bed is doing you a favor. Your sister-in-law, Xiumei, already arranged everything. Hot water's waiting at my house. Come take a bath, get a good night's sleep. It's all for your own good." For my own good? I almost laughed. This pathetic excuse was straight from the Zhuang Xiumei playbook. I was done talking. I lifted my foot and drove my high heels straight into Huang Fuxing's instep. Ow! He let go of me instinctively. I spun around and grabbed a coil of thick hemp rope from the table. This was something Xiao Yanxi taught me in my past life. Women's self-defense. He always said don't try to outmuscle a man. Use skill and tools. While Huang Fuxing was doubled over in pain, I got behind him, jammed my knee into his back, and wrapped the rope around his arms in a few quick loops, finishing with a tight dead knot. A textbook restraint. He was furious. "You crazy woman. How dare you tie me up?" He was too loud. I picked up a ratty towel from the bed and stuffed it into his screaming mouth. Peace and quiet. I grabbed his collar and dragged him out of my room like a dead dog, then slammed the door shut behind me. This had Zhuang Xiumei's fingerprints all over it. I straightened my wrinkled clothes and marched straight to my brother's room next door. I pounded on the door, loud and hard, making sure they knew I was angry. Zhuang Xiumei had heard the commotion and was already lying in bed pretending to sleep. When my brother opened the door, she sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes like she'd just woken up. Wei, it's so late. What's wrong?" I didn't even bother watching her little performance. I looked her dead in the eyes. Sister-in-law, stop playing your little games. Stop sending your sketchy relatives to my room. I won't let you ruin my reputation. Right on cue, she grabbed my brother's arm and burst into tears. Jiwen, listen to what your sister is saying to me. I was just trying to help. Her uncle has money. I thought he could make things more comfortable for her. And this is the thanks I get. She sobbed and carried on about being unappreciated. My brother saw his wife crying and immediately turned on me. Wei Wei, how dare you talk to your sister-in-law like that? She's pregnant and still worrying about you. You're so ungrateful. My heart went completely cold. Every single time. The moment Zhuang Xiaomei cried, my brother chose her side without question. I didn't bother arguing about who was right or wrong. I fired back directly. Brother, I'm your blood sister. Yes, I'm divorced. But I'm not trash and my reputation matters. You can't let strange men into my room just because your wife tells you to. Then I turned to Zhuang Xiaomei and let every ounce of threat show in my voice. I'm saying this once. This is the last time. If you ever send another man to my room again, it won't end with just an argument. She flinched at the look in my eyes. I think she realized I would actually fight back. So she played her trump card. She clutched her belly, collapsed into my brother's arms, and started wailing. Ow, my stomach. Jiwen, my stomach hurts so much. She punched me. She punched my belly. She wants to kill my baby. She's jealous because I'm having a son. I hadn't touched her. Not even close. But my brother exploded.
Dan Wee Wee, get out.
If anything happens to your sister-in-law, I'll never forgive you. You're a jinx. Get out. It was the first time my own brother called me a jinx. The words hit me like a slap. My eyes burned red, and I opened my mouth to fight back. But before I could, a voice cut in from the hallway. What's all this noise in the middle of the night? It was Zhang Guifan, a military wife staying on the same floor. She took one look at the crying Zhuang Xiaomei inside the room, then at me shaking with anger in the doorway, and immediately stepped in front of me. She spoke to my brother calmly, but firmly. Xiao Tang, you're a cadre now. Stop acting like a hot-headed kid. If your wife doesn't feel well, come for her. Yelling isn't going to help anyone. My brother's face flushed red, then white. He couldn't argue with a senior military wife. That's enough. Go take care of your wife, she said, already pulling me away. Come on, Wei Wei. Come stay in my room tonight. Her room smelled faintly of cold cream. It was clean and warm. She poured me a cup of warm sugar water and told me to drink it to calm down. We'd come to the island on the same boat. She'd liked me from the start. I was polite and good with words. After seeing what Zhuang Xiaomei just pulled, she felt even more protective of me. Don't blame me for butting in, Wei Wei, she said, getting straight to the point. After you left for the event, I heard your sister-in-law whispering with that so-called uncle of hers at the door. I have sharp ears. I caught enough. Her voice dropped low. Your sister-in-law told him, don't worry, uncle. That little brat can't escape. Tonight she's yours. She also said, once the rice is cooked, what can a divorced woman do about it? She can't fight back. Those words were disgusting. Zhang Guifan had wanted to charge out and confront them right then, but she was afraid of making things worse for me. I pulled you out for 2 reasons, she said. First, you're young and hot-tempered. If you go head-to-head with her, she's got that baby in her belly as a weapon. You can't win. Second, if this turns into a big scene at the guest house, people will gossip. This is a military area. They take moral conduct very seriously here. It could hurt you. Listening to Zhang Guifan repeat those words, my fingers tightened around the cup. My chest felt like it was stuffed with ice. So that was Zhuang Xiaomei's plan all along. Hand me over to Huang Fusheng like a piece of meat. And my own brother, did he really not notice? Or did he notice and just look the other way? Whatever brotherly love I had left for Tang Jiwen went completely cold in that moment. My own flesh and blood brother was worse than a stranger I'd met on a boat. Sister Fun, thank you, I said, taking a sip of the sugar water. It was sweet, but it couldn't cover the bitterness inside me. I looked up and my eyes were clear. You're right. I have to separate from them. Completely, she nodded, satisfied. Your brother is spineless. Your sister-in-law has him wrapped around her finger. You can't count on him anymore. You need to cut ties and get far away. I was already planning to move out and find work once I got back to the city, I said. The only problem is my household registration. In this era, without a household registration, you were nobody. You couldn't work, couldn't get food rations, couldn't get cloth tickets, nothing. My registration was supposed to have been transferred to the Xiao family when I married, but since I pushed for the divorce so early, it never moved. It was still under my brother and sister-in-law's name. Zhuang Xiaomei would definitely use that to control me. Zhang Guifan thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up. I've got it. Find a state-run factory in a remote area. Some of them offer household registration to attract workers. The location might be rough, but once your registration is under the factory's collective account, you're free. Later you can figure out how to transfer it to a city. That was the best option I had. My heart finally settled. Sister Fun, you've really saved me, I said. She waved it off with a big smile. We women have to look out for each other. After we talked a bit more, I thanked her and went back to my room. But before I could even get my key out, my brother's door creaked open. Tang Jiwen stood there, tired and conflicted, looking like he wanted to say something. I cut him off before he started. If you're here to apologize, I won't accept it. If you're here to make me apologize to your wife, that's even more impossible. He sighed his long-suffering sigh and put on his big brother voice. Wei Wei, I'm just looking out for you. You're divorced now. Your reputation isn't great. Your sister-in-law is worried you won't find a good match. If you're smart, you'll listen to her. Pick a decent officer here on the island. Marry him. Become a military wife. Your second brother can look after you on base. Isn't that perfect? My second brother? I nearly laughed out loud. That man was completely controlled by his own shrewd wife. I'd been on this island for days and hadn't even seen his face because his wife wouldn't let him come. Not a single brother in this family was worth relying on.
I'm tired.
I'm going to sleep. We can talk tomorrow. I opened my door, stepped inside, and slammed it shut. Locked it. Finally, silence. I leaned against the cold door and let out a long, heavy breath. Through the thin wall, I could hear Zhuang Xiaomei's whimpering and my brother's soft, groveling comfort. Don't be upset, it's bad for the baby. She's just a jinx. She doesn't know any better. I closed my eyes and shut it all out. I walked to the bed and picked up the black dress Huang Fuxing had been pawing at. There was a small tear near the collar where it had been pulled during the struggle. I grabbed the scissors from the table and cut along the tear without hesitation. The fabric ripped apart with a sharp sound. Anything that was dirted I wouldn't keep. Meanwhile, at the regimental headquarters, Xiao Yanxi was chain-smoking in his office. The ashtray was overflowing with cigarette butts like a small mountain. His mind was full of my pale, stubborn face. And those cold words of mine, buying a boat ticket. Going back to South City. This woman. When she wanted the divorce, she'd threatened to hang herself, brought a male classmate to cause a scene, humiliated him and his entire family. Now she'd shown up on his island for a matchmaking event, and she thought she could just leave afterward like nothing happened? His colleague Liu Zhanbei walked in and was nearly choked to death by the smoke. When he saw Xiao Yanxi's pitch-black expression and the mountain of cigarette butts, he understood immediately. The only person who could push this iron-willed commander to the edge like this was his runaway bride of 3 months, me. I didn't know it at the time, but while I was locking my door and tearing up that ruined dress, Xiao Yanxi was sitting in his office at regimental headquarters, chain-smoking himself into a fog. His best friend Liu Zhanbei walked in and nearly choked on the smoke. One look at the overflowing ashtray and Xiao Yanxi's black expression told him everything. After a long silence, Xiao Yanxi finally spoke. His voice was stiff, awkward, completely unlike him. Zhanbei, let me ask you something. I have a friend. Liu Zhanbei's mouth twitched. Of course. The classic, I have a friend, setup. His wife ran away after demanding a divorce. It's been 3 months. Now he's run into her again. What should he do? Liu Zhanbei didn't mince words. Tell your friend to forget her. A woman who runs off with another man, her heart isn't with your friend anymore. Even if he drags her back, She'll never be a proper military wife. Xiao Yanxi stared out the dark window, his voice distant. What if she was just confused? What if she came to the military base to try matchmaking because she regrets it? Because she wants to come back? Lu Zhanbei nearly lost his mind. Come back? A woman like that doesn't come back. Your friend is an idiot. Then, he went straight for the kill. Let me use your little wife Tang Weiwei as an example. Xiao Yanxi's body went rigid. His eyes flashed with warning. But Lu Zhanbei pushed on. If she cared about you, would she have demanded a divorce right when you were in the middle of your most dangerous mission? If she loved you, would she have stayed completely silent when you nearly died on the operating table? Not a single word, not even asking if you were alive. Enough. Xiao Yanxi's voice was like a blade. I wasn't talking about her. The office turned to ice. But Lu Zhanbei wasn't backing down. He held up 3 fingers and laid out his theory of women. First level, someone like Xiao Shuiying, who's followed you since childhood. One crook of your finger and she'd walk through fire for you. Second level, women with a little pride who need effort, like the girls I dated in the art troupe. Workable. Then, he pressed his 3rd finger right into Xiao Yanxi's chest, his smile turning cruel. Third level, Tang Weiwei.
Impossible difficulty.
You know why? Because she doesn't want you. She brought another man to help her fight for that divorce. She doesn't care about you at all. He slapped Xiao Yanxi's shoulder, dead serious. You can't force a bitter melon to taste sweet. Just submit the divorce papers, cut it clean, and move on. It's better for both of you. Xiao Yanxi looked at him through the smoke and said quietly, You've never tried to force one. How do you know it won't be sweet? Lu Zhanbei's face went pale. A terrible thought hit him. Was this man planning to take me back by force? Don't you dare do anything stupid. You're a regimental commander now. People are watching. Think about your parents. Think about your mother. That one landed. Everyone knew Xiao Yanxi's mother had fragile mental health. He cared about his family above everything else. His expression darkened. I won't let anything happen to my family. Lu Zhanbei exhaled with relief. So you're saying you won't try to get back together with Tang Weiwei, right? After a pause, Xiao Yanxi nodded. Lu Zhanbei finally relaxed. Thank God. He'd talked sense into that stubborn mule. But he didn't see what flickered in Xiao Yanxi's lowered eyes, a cold, knowing gleam. Get back together? Xiao Yanxi thought to himself. That would imply they'd actually broken apart. And in his mind, they never had. He'd never submitted those divorce papers. We were still husband and wife. I knew none of this. I was lying in my dark room at the guest house, thinking I was free, planning my escape back to South City. I had no idea that in Xiao Yanxi's world, I had never left him at all. I woke up before dawn. I hadn't slept well. Too many things weighing on my mind. I'd made my decision during the night. I couldn't stay on Lushan Island another day. Who knew what scheme my brother and sister-in-law would cook up next to force me into marriage? And with Xiao Yanxi stationed here, the risk of him coming after me for revenge was too real to ignore. I got dressed, packed my things, and was about to go talk to my brother about buying a boat ticket. But the second I opened my door, Tang Jiwen was already standing there, hand raised to knock, looking frantic. Weiwei, your sister-in-law. She's suddenly feeling terrible. I followed him to their room. Zhuang Xiumei was lying in bed, pale-faced and moaning. My brother was panicking, begging me to run to the military hospital and buy her some glucose. Apparently that always helped when she got like this. He shoved a fistful of money and ration tickets into my hands and practically pushed me out the door. Part of me suspected it was another act, but I didn't want to make things worse right before I needed their cooperation to leave the island. So, I went. What I didn't know was that the moment I disappeared down the hallway, Zhuang Xiumei sat straight up in bed, perfectly healthy. She pulled 2 packed bags from under the bed and started dragging my brother toward the door. Hurry. If we leave now, and she has no one to fall back on, she'll have no choice but to marry someone on this island. She'd already met with Huang Fuxing that morning. He'd promised that once my brother and sister-in-law were gone, he'd handle me, make me his wife by force if necessary. She'd taken 100 yuan from him and bought 2 boat tickets. They were abandoning me. My brother hesitated, but Zhuang Xiumei knew exactly which buttons to push. She reminded him of their 3 sons waiting at home. And she assured him our second brother would be back on the island soon and could look after me. Of course, she knew perfectly well that our second sister-in-law was just as ruthless and would help push me toward Huang Fusheng. My brother caved. He left a note for me at the front desk and walked out without looking back. Meanwhile, I spent over 2 hours at the hospital. No military ID meant I had to go through the regular process. Registration, waiting in line, consultation, payment, pharmacy. By the time I finally had 2 vials of glucose in my hand, I was exhausted and sweating. I was about to leave when I heard voices from a nearby room. A group of young nurses were gossiping, and what they said stopped me dead in my tracks. The nurse from last night, the one who'd treated me, was talking to her friends. I'm not making this up. My teacher said it himself. He's an old military doctor. His pulse readings are never wrong. He said our new commander Xiao is really something. How so? She lowered her voice, but I heard every word. He got a woman pregnant with triplets. Can you believe that? The other nurses gasped and covered their mouths. Triplets were practically unheard of. That woman is so lucky. Then the gossiping nurse's voice dropped even lower, almost to a whisper. But my teacher told us to keep it quiet. He said it's a sensitive situation, because that woman is already 3 months pregnant. And 3 months ago, Commander Zhao's city wife hadn't run away yet, so it's a moral conduct issue. My mind went blank. My ears were ringing. 3 months pregnant. Triplets. Commander Zhao's. They were talking about me. The old doctor had checked my pulse last night and found a pregnancy. 3 months along, which meant I conceived while still married to Xiao Yanxi. And it was triplets. I shook my head. Even if Xiao Yanxi really had gotten some woman pregnant, it wasn't my problem anymore. We were divorced. Let Xiao Shuiying deal with that headache. The nurse who'd been gossiping suddenly spotted me through the crack in the door. Her face went white, and she slammed it shut. I didn't care. I turned and walked away. They were the ones who should be embarrassed, not me. When I got back to the guest house, my brother and sister-in-law's room was wide open. Empty, like they'd checked out. My heart dropped. I rushed to the front desk. The worker handed me a folded note. Your brother and his wife already left. They asked me to give you this. I opened it with cold fingers. My brother's sloppy handwriting stared back at me. Wei, we had urgent business and went home first. You're grown up now, learn to take care of yourself. Your sister-in-law's uncle is a good man. Treat him well and marry into a good family. Don't worry about us. Not even a signature. A few throwaway sentences, and they dumped me on a strange island alone. I was shaking with rage. I ran back to my room and tore open my suitcase. Clothes were still there. Underwear still there. But my letter of introduction gone. My household registration certificate gone. Even my university diploma gone. They hadn't just abandoned me. They'd cut off every escape route. Without those documents, I couldn't find work. I couldn't even leave this island. I turned the suitcase upside down and emptied everything onto the floor. I searched every pocket on my body. All I had left was 1 yuan and 30 cents, change from buying the glucose. That wasn't even enough for tonight's room at the guest house. But I refused to give up. I still had my second brother. Tang Jixuan was a military man. If I could reach him, he could help. I grabbed my ID card, the only important document left, and headed for the door to find a post office and make a phone call. The moment I opened the door, a figure blocked my way. Huang Fusheng, staring at me with a slimy, possessive look, like I was merchandise he'd already paid for. Wife, where are you going? My stomach turned. I'm not your wife. Get out of my way. He stepped closer instead. The stench of cheap tobacco and sweat hit my face. He pulled a neatly folded receipt from his pocket and waved it in front of me. See this? Your brother and sister-in-law gave you to me. This is the 100 yuan deposit. Your sister-in-law took it herself. His grin was revolting. Your brother said you're divorced and told me not to mind. Don't worry, I don't. I've got a house, a fishing boat, just need a woman who can bear children. You're mine now. Come on, wife. My brain exploded. They sold me. My own brother and sister-in-law sold me for 100 yuan. That's why they sent me to buy glucose to get me out of the way. That's why they took all my documents. They weren't just abandoning me. They were selling me like property to this disgusting man. The rage and humiliation hit me like a tidal wave. Huang Fuxing reached for my wrist, thinking I'd given in. The second before his filthy hand touched my skin, everything inside me erupted. I slapped him across the face with every ounce of strength I had. His cheeks swelled up instantly. He stood there, stunned, holding his face. Then the shock turned to fury. You dare hit me? You think you're some city princess? You're second-hand goods nobody wants. I paid good money for you, you should be grateful. He spat on the ground. Looks like I need to teach you a lesson. Today you're coming with me whether you like it or not. He lunged at me, but I was ready. I dodged backward and shoved him forward with both hands. He stumbled off balance and I ran. I sprinted out the door, down the stairs, my heels hammering against the concrete like alarm bells. He was right behind me, screaming curses. I burst into the lobby, and with every last bit of air in my lungs, I screamed as loud as I could. Help. There's a man harassing me. A hooligan is assaulting a military family member. There were soldiers in the lobby, young men who'd come to pick up their families. The second they heard hooligan and military family member, their faces hardened. They surrounded Huang Fuxing before he could grab me. His tough act crumbled instantly. Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. He forced a pathetic smile. I'm her fiancé, I almost laughed. He's my sister-in-law's uncle. Since when is he my fiancé? I turned to Zhang Guifan, who'd rushed over. Sister Zhang, you saw him yesterday. Tell everyone who he really is. She marched over and pointed straight at his face. That's right. He's her sister-in-law's uncle. I caught him sneaking toward her room last night and chased him off myself. Now he's claiming to be her fiancé? Shameless. A military wife's word carried serious weight. The soldiers were furious. Harassing military dependents on our turf. Send him to the police, Huang Fuxing panicked. In desperation, he pulled out that crumpled receipt and screamed, You can't arrest me. I have proof. Her brother and sister-in-law sold her to me. I paid 100 yuan. The lobby went dead quiet. Everyone stared at me with shock. This was exactly what I wanted, for him to say it out loud in front of witnesses. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel ashamed. I looked him straight in the eye and said, Trafficking women is a serious crime. Let's all go to the police station together and sort this out properly. Huang Fuxing's face went white. He never expected me to fight back this hard. His proof had just become his death warrant. The soldiers dragged him out, howling like a pig being led to slaughter. Zhang Guifan and I followed, along with several soldiers as witnesses. At the police station, the officer listened to everything and slammed his fist on the desk when he saw the receipt. Absolutely outrageous. He told me not to worry and asked me to provide a family contact so they could verify the situation. I gave him my second brother Tang, Zhishuan's military unit number. The call went through, but it was my second sister-in-law, Shunman Li, who answered. The officer explained the situation and asked her to come help and take me in. Silence on the other end. Then, in a bored, irritated voice, She's a grown woman. She can't handle this herself? I'm watching the baby. I can't leave. Tell her to figure it out on her own. Click. She hung up. The officer stared at the phone, stunned. This was her husband's own sister, sold, harassed, stranded at a police station. And that was her response? I stood there, my insides frozen. I knew my second sister-in-law was cold, but refusing to even help with a simple phone call? That was a new low. Zhang Guifan burst into the room, furious. She said she has to watch the baby? Is she even human? Officer, forget her. I'll vouch for Weiwei myself. She can stay with me. The soldiers backed her up. She's right. How does a girl this good end up with a family like that? Huang Fuxing, handcuffed to a chair, started screaming. Don't be fooled by her. She's no good woman. She's divorced, second-hand goods. Who knows how many men have? Zhang Guifan stormed over and slapped him so hard he saw stars. Shut your filthy mouth. Divorced means she deserves to be abused by trash like you? Say one more word, and I'll rip your lips off. The whole room went silent. Even the officers looked impressed. She turned back to the police. "Officer, can you write her a pass? She can't get through the military gate without one." The officer wanted to help, but rules were rules. "I understand, Sister Zhang. But we need a direct military family member to authorize it. Could you call your husband and have the base send someone or issue a letter?" Zhang Guifin didn't hesitate. She picked up the phone and dialed her husband Shi Hongfeng's office. "Old Shi, it's me. You need to talk to your leadership right now." She rattled off the whole story at lightning speed. At that very moment, in the regimental headquarters office, Shi Hongfeng was on the phone, his face getting darker by the second. And he wasn't alone in that office. Sitting across from him, holding a document with an ice-cold expression, was Xiao Yanxi. Shi Hongfeng's voice rose. "What? Sold? For 100 yuan? Are those two out of their minds? Okay, calm down. Tell the girl not to be scared. I'll report to leadership right away. It's just bringing someone into the family compound. No big deal." He hung up and stood, ready to go find his superior. That's when Xiao Yanxi set down his papers. He looked up, his tone casual, almost too casual. "Old Shi, this person your wife wants to bring in. Who is it?" Shi Hongfeng was surprised his commander cared about something this small. But he didn't dare question it, so he told Xiao Yanxi the whole story. How my brother and sister-in-law sold me for 100 yuan, how Huang Fuxing tried to force himself on me, how my second sister-in-law refused to help. He cursed my family up and down. Selling their own sister. Absolute garbage. Then he calmed down and asked, "Commander, could you approve a visitor pass so the girl can stay at the family compound?" Xiao Yanxi looked calm on the surface. But his hand, hidden at his side, was clenched so tight his knuckles were white.
His wife.
Sold like merchandise. For 100 yuan. The woman he couldn't bring himself to say a harsh word to, suffering this kind of humiliation. "Approved," he said, his voice terrifyingly flat. "But you should go in person as the military's representative. It'll carry more weight." Then he casually mentioned that Shi Hongfeng's platoon leader had gotten into a fight with someone at the police station recently, and things might be awkward if Shi Hongfeng went alone. Shi Hongfeng took the bait perfectly. "Commander, could you come with me? If you show up, they'll definitely cooperate." Xiao Yanxi pretended to hesitate. "I'm busy. Please. My wife just agreed to come live on base. If I mess up her first request, she'll never let me hear the end of it." Xiao Yanxi reluctantly agreed. Then at the door, he told his guard to fetch Lu Zhanbei too. So the three of them drove to the police station, Xiao Yanxi behind the wheel, Shi Hongfeng riding shotgun, and a grumpy Lu Zhanbei in the back, complaining about being dragged out of his afternoon nap. All this just to pick up one person from the police station? Was that really worth waking me up? Neither of them noticed how white Xiao Yanxi's knuckles were on the steering wheel, or how dangerously low the pressure inside the car had dropped. At the station, the officers were getting ready to lock Huang Fuxing in a holding cell. He lost his mind, screaming at me as they dragged him away.
"Dan Wee.
You'll pay for this. Your brother took my money. You belong to me." The officers tightened their grip and hauled him off. The hallway went quiet, but his filthy words clung to me like flies. My stomach flipped. Ugh, I dry heaved, my face going even paler. Zhang Guifin grabbed my arm. Wei, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Just stuffy in here. Feel sick." She immediately ordered the soldiers to take me outside for fresh air. They were happy to help. Every one of them despised Huang Fuxing and felt sorry for me. Outside, the sun was warm and the breeze felt good. An old man was pushing a bicycle with a wooden box on the back, calling out, "Ice pops, green bean and cream." I wanted to buy some for Zhang Guifin and the soldiers to thank them. But before I could even reach for my pocket, a young soldier named Dong Qingfei beat me to it. "You want ice pops? Wait right there." He dug out some coins and sprinted over, coming back with an armful wrapped in paper, grinning from ear to ear. "Here, green bean. Perfect for the heat." I thanked him and took one. The cold sweetness pushed down the nausea, and for the first time all day, I actually smiled. A real smile. Dong Qingfei stared at me like he'd been struck by lightning. He was young, single, full of energy. Zhang Guifin had told him I was unmarried, and I could practically see the thought forming behind his eyes, that if he could win a girl this beautiful, he'd do anything. That's when the green Jeep pulled up. Shi Hongfeng got out first, then pulled Lu Zhanbei along. Lu Zhanbei was still grumbling and told Xiao Yanxi to get out too. Xiao Yanxi stepped out of the car, cold as a glacier, his gaze cutting through the air like a blade, aimed straight at something in front of him. Lu Zhanbei laughed. "What's with that look? Like someone stealing your wife." But then he followed Xiao Yanxi's stare, saw what he was looking at, me, smiling brightly, surrounded by attentive young soldiers, eating an ice pop one of them had bought me, and cursed under his breath. "Xiao Yanxi, you unlucky bastard," Lu Zhanbei cursed and climbed back into the Jeep. He glared at Xiao Yanxi, furious. "You promised me that night in your office. You said you were done with her. And now you tricked me into coming here?" For Tang Weiwei again, Xiao Yanxi didn't even look at him. Shi Hongfeng's wife asked for help. "Nothing to do with me." Lu Zhanbei didn't believe a single word. But Shi Hongfeng was begging with clasped hands, nearly in tears, explaining how his wife would never forgive him if he couldn't help. Lu Zhanbei saw through the whole scheme. Xiao Yanxi had calculated everything perfectly, knowing Shi Hongfeng would pressure him into cooperating. "You manipulative bastard," Lu Zhanbei growled, punching Xiao Yanxi's shoulder.
Fine.
"I'll go handle this for you." Our oh-so-busy Commander Xiao can sit in his precious car. He dragged Shi Hongfeng toward the police station entrance. I was standing outside, nibbling on my green bean ice pop, feeling the cold sweetness settle my churning stomach. Then a tall shadow blocked my sunlight. I looked up. Lu Zhanbei. My whole body went rigid. My brain buzzed. The ice pop slipped from my fingers and shattered on the ground. Dong Qingfei, the young soldier, immediately pulled out a clean handkerchief.
Có mát tang.
"Are you okay? Want to wipe your hands?" From inside the Jeep, Xiao Yanxi watched another man fussing over me, and his knuckles went white around the cigarette pack. Shi Hongfeng introduced himself and Lu Zhanbei, explaining they were from the base, here to help. But the moment my eyes landed on Lu Zhanbei's face, the nausea I'd been holding down came roaring back. I spun around, covered my mouth, and stumbled to the nearest flower bed. I retched violently, almost brought up bile. Dong Qingfei blurted out in concern, "Brother Lu, is your face too scary? You made Comrade Tang throw up." The air froze. Lu Zhanbei's face turned black as coal. But it wasn't his looks that made me sick. It was what I remembered from my past life. After I'd followed Xiao Yanxi to the military base, Lu Zhanbei transferred to the same unit. He was close friends with Xiao Shuiying, and he never missed a chance to remind me of my place. "Weiwei, as Yanxi's best friend, I can promise you, even though Shuiying is the one in his heart, he won't betray you. You're his wife now. But honestly, if the old man hadn't forced him to marry you, he and Shuiying would have been together long ago. Poor Shuiying, waiting all those years for him. Such devotion." He'd said those things like casual conversation, but each word was a poison needle. Especially during my pregnancy, when my emotions were already fragile, his friendly reminders nearly pushed me into prenatal depression. So seeing his face again, my body reacted before my brain could. Every memory of those cruel, well-meaning little comments hit me at once. But I wasn't going to walk the same road as my last life. I took several deep breaths, rinsed my mouth with water, and composed myself. When I turned back around, my face was calm. I even managed a polite, distant smile. "Captain Shi, Comrade Lu, hello. Sorry for the trouble." Lu Zhanbei looked at me like I was the most annoying woman on earth. He clearly thought I was dramatic and manipulative, exactly the kind of woman he avoided. "No trouble," he said coldly. "The paperwork isn't done yet. Let's go inside and finish up." He just wanted this over with so he could go yell at Xiao Yanxi in private. With Lu Zhanbei handling things, the paperwork went fast. The police gave me official documents proving I was a victim, and they promised Huang Fuxing would face serious consequences, at least a year in prison for what he did. Before I left, the officers reminded me that without proper identification documents, I couldn't even leave the island. Lushan Island was a military civilian zone, You needed household registration and local paperwork just to buy a boat ticket. I already knew who I needed to call. Not my brothers. They wanted me married off, not rescued. The only person left was Uncle Joe, my parents' old war comrade. He was the one holding my inheritance, and he was the only person I could trust to help me get the documents I needed to escape this island for good. We walked out of the station into the blinding sunlight. That green military jeep was parked under a tree nearby. Liu Zhanbei waved us over. "Comrade Tang, get in. We'll drive you to the family compound." My eyes drifted past him to the back seat of the jeep. Even in the shadows, I could see that cold, rigid outline. The suffocating pressure was unmistakable. Xiao Yanxi. He was in the car. My stomach flipped instantly. I stepped back and shook my head. "No thank you, Comrade Liu. The compound isn't far. We'll take the bus. I'd rather squeeze onto a sweaty public bus than sit in a closed space with that man." Dong Qingfei's face lit up. "Right. I'll ride the bus with you, Comrade Tang." He puffed out his chest like a loyal guard dog. Liu Zhanbei tried to signal him to stop, but Dong Qingfei was oblivious. He even announced cheerfully, "Brother Liu, she threw up the moment you walked over earlier. I think she doesn't like your smell. Better if she doesn't ride with you." The air turned to stone. Liu Zhanbei's face went completely black. Zhang Guifan took Dong Qingfei's theory seriously. She grabbed my arm and pulled me toward the bus stop. "Oh no, we can't have Weiwei getting sick again. Come on, we'll take the bus." "We're not riding in his car." She dragged me away, called her husband to follow, and left Liu Zhanbei standing alone in the dust. He was furious. "Dong Qingfei, you're dead when we get back to base." He yanked open the car door and threw himself inside, slamming it shut. The atmosphere in the jeep was murderous. From the back seat, Xiao Yanxi didn't even look up. He just murmured, "Watch your personal hygiene." Liu Zhanbei nearly choked. "I shower every single day." "Xiao Yanxi, don't you dare." But Xiao Yanxi wasn't listening. His eyes were on the rear-view mirror, watching the bus stop, watching Dong Qingfei chatting me up, animated and eager, making Zhang Guifan laugh. Liu Zhanbei caught the direction of his gaze and couldn't resist twisting the knife. "Oh, our great Commander Xiao is so calm and collected. But let me warn you, that white swan of yours has wings. Today she dodges your car. Tomorrow she flies off with some other guy. And then you'll have nobody to cry to." Shi Hongfeng was confused. "Flying? What's flying?" Liu Zhanbei patted his shoulder mysteriously. "You wouldn't understand, old Shi. The waters here run deep." He was saying it all on purpose, loud enough for Xiao Yanxi to hear. Payback for being manipulated. It worked. The temperature in the car dropped several more degrees. Xiao Yanxi's hand gripped the lighter, so tight his knuckles went white. At the bus stop, I kept my distance from Dong Qingfei and studied the route map. One stop caught my eye, the post office. I had just enough money left for a long-distance phone call. I could call Uncle Joe. If I could reach him, he could deal with my inheritance, maybe even intercept my brother and sister-in-law before they got home and moved anything. It would also teach them a lesson. I turned to Zhang Guifan. "Sister, could I make a stop at the post office first? I need to make a long-distance call home." "Of course," Zhang Guifan agreed right away. She wanted to call home too. Her two boys had almost finished summer break, and she needed to remind them about school. The bus came quickly. It was packed and smelled like sweat, but Dong Qingfei spread his arms like a shield, carving out a little space for me and Zhang Guifan. People saw his uniform and my pale face, and politely moved aside. The post office had a long line snaking out the door, baking under the sun. I'd barely stood there a minute before sweat beaded on my forehead. After everything at the police station, my body was running on fumes. The heat made my head spin. Dong Qingfei noticed immediately. He ran to a nearby tree, picked the biggest leaf he could find, and came trotting back to hold it over my head like an umbrella. "Use this for shade, Comrade Tang." He looked so earnest and silly that Zhang Guifan burst out laughing.
She nudged me.
"This kid's got good instincts." I tried to wave him off, but he followed me wherever I moved, holding that leaf like his life depended on it. "Protecting civilians is a soldier's duty," he declared with a straight face. I gave up and let him do his thing. Meanwhile, In that green Jeep parked nearby, the temperature had dropped to Arctic levels. Liu Zhanbei was practically shivering next to a stone-faced Xiao Yanxi, who had sent Shi Hongfeng back to base and insisted on following us himself. Now, he was watching another man fuss over me through the windshield, his eyes like frozen daggers. Liu Zhanbei couldn't take it anymore. Want me to go grab her and bring her to the car? No answer. Just ice. Then Dong Qingfei pulled out a clean handkerchief, apparently planning to wipe the sweat from my face. Liu Zhanbei's heart jumped into his throat. That boy was about to light the fuse on a bomb. But before his hand reached my cheek, a familiar voice cut through the crowd. Wei Wei, why are you standing in line? Mei Yuanyuan. She bounced out of the crowd in her pink polka dot dress like a butterfly. You need to make a call? Why wait in line? My middle school classmate works here. I'll take you inside, free calls, no waiting. Before I could respond, she grabbed my arm and dragged me through the doors, calling back to Zhang Guifan to follow. Dong Qingfei was left standing alone, holding his leaf, staring at the empty space where I'd been. He looked heartbroken for about 3 seconds, then carefully blew off the leaf and started tucking it into his pocket. Can't throw away such a nice leaf. I'll press it in a book. Or maybe put it under my pillow. A voice like a blade of ice hit him from behind.
Take it out. He spun around.
Xiao Yanxi was standing right there, face black as coal, hand outstretched. Military Regulations, Chapter 3, Article 17. No personal items inconsistent with military appearance and discipline. That leaf is unauthorized material. Dong Qingfei's world collapsed. Inside the post office, Mei Yuanyuan's friend Fong Jianfan let us use the internal line. 10 minutes each, no charge. I dialed the number I knew by heart. After a few rings, a familiar voice answered. Hello, this is the history department at Qingbei University. Who's calling? Uncle Zhou. My heart clenched. Uncle Zhou, it's me. Wei Wei. How's the job on the island going? So my brother had told him the same lie, that I was going to the island for work. Uncle Zhou had been deceived too. I took a deep breath. Uncle Zhou, there was no job. My brother and sister-in-law brought me here for matchmaking. They've already left the island without me. What? I heard him leap to his feet. Something crashed, a teacup probably. Come back right now. Uncle Zhou will take care of everything. I can't, Uncle Zhou. I need you to send me identification documents so I can buy a boat ticket. And there's something else. I also need some money, I said, forcing the words out. I don't have any left. Uncle Zhou listened patiently as I explained everything. Then I asked the hard question. Could he sell my parents' house and send me some of the money? He went quiet for a moment. Then he understood.
I was done with the Tang family.
Completely done. That house on Fuxi Road. Your father's name is on the deed, but the will says it's yours. It has nothing to do with your 4 brothers. His voice was firm. The housing director at my university has been wanting to buy a place in the city. 70 square meters at 800 per square meter. That's 60,000 yuan. He'll take it for sure. 60,000 yuan. In an era when most workers earned a few dozen yuan a month, that was a fortune. Enough to buy a job placement, find a smaller apartment, and start a completely independent life. I'll go to the bank right now, Uncle Zhou said, his voice softening. I'll wire you 100 yuan first. Use it for now, and tell me if you need more. I gave him Zhang Guifan's husband's name and address for the wire transfer. You stay at the military compound and don't go wandering around, he said firmly. I'll finish the paperwork and come to the island myself in about 7 days. I'll bring your documents and take you home personally. 7 days. I could survive 7 days. When I hung up, the weight on my chest finally eased. I had a plan. I had money coming. I had Uncle Zhou. I handed the phone to Zhang Guifan and Mei Yuanyuan bounced over immediately. Wei, did I hear right? You're staying at the military compound for a few days. I nodded. Waiting for family to come get me. Her face lit up like a lantern. That's amazing. We can see each other all the time. She blushed deep red and lowered her voice. The 7th Company commander. He proposed my parents after the matchmaking event. I'm going to the base tomorrow as a trainee military wife. I was truly happy for her. Congratulations, Yuan. You'll be the best military wife ever. She hugged me so tight, I could barely breathe. You're the best friend I've ever had. Once I'm on base, I'll protect you. I couldn't help laughing. We agreed to meet at the compound gate tomorrow. But when the three of us walked out of the post office, we froze. Dong Qingfei and the other soldiers were gone. In their place sat that familiar green jeep, and standing beside it were two tall figures, Liu Zhanbei and Xiao Yanxi. My stomach dropped. Zhang Guifan looked around, confused. Brother Liu, where did Dong Qingfei and the others go? Liu Zhanbei glanced sideways at Xiao Yanxi, then lied through his teeth without blinking. They hadn't finished their endurance training for the day. I sent them running back to base from here. What? Zhang Guifan was horrified. In this heat? Without lunch? They'll get heatstroke. I thought it was cruel, too. Those soldiers were young. They'd helped me at the police station and stood in the sun for hours. Making them run back on empty stomachs felt like punishment. But Xiao Yanxi's face showed nothing. His voice was flat. Basic physical training for any soldier. Then his gaze landed on me. Get in. I'll drive you back. Zhang Guifan was delighted and started heading toward the jeep. But I didn't move. Get in his car? No way. Xiao Yanxi looked at me with those dark eyes. What? Scared of me? That did it. My temper flared instantly. Scared? I was never scared of him. Not even in my last life. I glared at him. Open the door. Something flickered in his eyes. Was that amusement? He pulled the back door open. As I bent to climb in, his hand rose to shield the top of the door frame so I wouldn't bump my head. His warm palm nearly brushed my hair. I froze. He used to do that every single time in my past life. My heart stuttered. I scrambled inside and pressed myself against the far window, trying to put as much distance between us as possible. On the road, Zhang Guifan, bless her chatty heart, brought up the one topic I didn't want to discuss. Wei Wei, I heard your sister-in-law mention you divorced a military husband. What was he thinking? Why would any man divorce someone as pretty and kind as you? Was he blind? I couldn't help glancing at the back of Xiao Yanxi's head in the driver's seat. The memory of those nurses gossiping about triplets flashed through my mind, and my heart stung like it had been pricked by a needle. I looked away. Yes. He was blind. The tires screeched against the road. The car suddenly accelerated. A 20-minute drive was cut in half. By the time we jerked to a stop at the compound gate, my head was spinning and my stomach was doing flips. Zhang Guifan caught my arm. Wei Wei, you're so pale. Is it low blood sugar? I haven't eaten since this morning, I admitted. From outside the car, Xiao Yanxi's flat voice cut in. The mess hall is serving lunch. Zhang Guifan perked up. Oh, can we go eat? Wei Wei is starving, he nodded. Zhang can use Shi Hongfeng's meal card. He paused, his gaze settling on me. Tang Wei Wei is a visitor. No card. Another pause. She can use mine. His expression practically spelled out the challenge. I dare you to refuse. That obvious little provocation. Did he think I wouldn't take it? I straightened my back and lifted my chin. Fine. I was already planning which of the most expensive dishes I'd order. A faint glimmer passed through his eyes. He turned and walked ahead. Let's go. Liu Zhanbei, standing nearby, looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. He grabbed his forehead and muttered something under his breath. Then Xiao Yanxi seized his arm and dragged him along. Lead the way. Liu Zhanbei was fuming. Lead the way? The mess hall was impossible to miss. Xiao Yanxi just wanted a buffer, so he wouldn't have to walk alone with me. Pathetic. The mess hall was packed and noisy, soldiers fresh from training, wolfing down food, chopsticks clattering everywhere. When Xiao Yanxi walked in, a few heads popped up. Commander, sir. Then they went right back to eating. Even a terrifying commander couldn't compete with lunch. But the calm didn't last. Zhang Guifan turned and called out, Wei Wei, hurry up. That soft name floated through the steel and concrete dining hall like a strange melody. Heads turned, and then they saw me. The entire mess hall went silent. Someone's chopsticks clattered to the floor. Jaws dropped. Steamed buns were forgotten mid-bite. Who is that? She's gorgeous. When did our base get a beauty like this? Someone who'd seen Zhang Guifan at the guest house whispered to his buddy. That's Deputy Company Commander Sher's wife, head swiveled. So the girl next to her must be his sister-in-law. The whispering exploded into a buzzing wave. Every pair of eyes in that hall was glued to me. Lu Zhanbei leaned over and bumped Xiao Yanxi's shoulder, grinning. See that, old Xiao? Quite the audience your girl's got. Xiao Yanxi's face didn't change. Not one muscle. He reached into his pocket, pulled out his meal card, and held it out to me. Take this card. Get whatever you want. I took the card without thinking. It was still warm from his hand. I'll get you soup, he said, and walked off toward the soup window like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like he'd done it 1,000 times before. The entire mess hall went dead silent. Every soldier froze. Chopsticks, buns, and bowls clattered to the floor. Their ice-cold commander, the man who never looked at women, had just handed his personal meal card to a girl and was now fetching her soup? Am I seeing things? One soldier whispered.
Is she
the commander's wife? I didn't hear any of it. Zhang Guifin was already dragging me to the food window, ordering for both of us, braised pork with extra meat, tomato and egg, green beans with potato, and 2 heaping bowls of rice. We sat down by the window. Xiao Yanxi and Lu Zhanbei joined us, with 2 big bowls of seaweed and pork rib soup. Then I did something without thinking. I looked at the 2 bowls of rice, one piled high like a mountain, one normal, and pushed the big one toward Xiao Yanxi. The moment I did it, I wanted to kick myself. That was pure habit from my past life. He always ate a lot, and I always gave him the bigger portion. I was about to switch them back, but he'd already picked up his chopsticks and started eating like it was completely expected. Like of course I'd give him the bigger bowl.
fine?
If he wasn't going to be awkward about it, neither was I. Then he pulled the soup bowl closer, and with practiced hands, picked out every single piece of scallion floating on top. He filled a smaller bowl with scallion-free soup and pushed it in front of me. I went completely still. He remembered I didn't like scallions. After everything, the fighting, the divorce, the 3 months apart, he still remembered something that small. A wave of feeling crashed over me. Bitterness, hurt, and something deeper that I refused to name. Zhang Guifin was watching us with wide, suspicious eyes. The meal card, the soup, the scallions, she could tell something was off. We didn't act like strangers at all. And then he did it again. He picked up a piece of braised pork with his chopsticks, calmly separated the fat from the lean, placed the lean piece in my bowl, and ate the fatty part himself. Without a word. Without even changing his expression. At a nearby table, the base's political commissar, Yu Guangyao, saw everything. He set down his chopsticks. He was certain now, this beautiful girl was Xiao Yanxi's runaway wife. The meal was an undercurrent of chaos. I couldn't taste anything. Zhang Guifin was bursting with curiosity. Lu Zhanbei was watching the show with visible entertainment. And Xiao Yanxi sat there the entire time with his stone-cold face, as if none of those tender little gestures had anything to do with him. After lunch, Zhang Guifin grabbed my hand. Wei Wei, come with me to the family committee office. I need to do my military spouse paperwork. She dragged me away before I could process what had just happened. Xiao Yanxi and Lu Zhanbei stayed behind. Once we were out of sight, Lu Zhanbei waved his hand in front of Xiao Yanxi's face. Hey, come back to Earth. Xiao Yanxi's gaze slowly pulled away from the door I'd walked through. He shot Lu Zhanbei a look sharp enough to cut, but said nothing. Then a warm, amused voice came from behind them. Your wife came all the way to the base and you didn't even tell anyone? Not arranging her military spouse status? You want her living under someone else's roof. It was Commissar Yu Guangyao, a 35-year-old father of 4, with the calm wisdom of a man who'd seen it all. He walked over and clapped Xiao Yanxi on the shoulder without ceremony. Lu Zhanbei was stunned. Commissar Yu, how did you figure it out? Yu Guangyao laughed. Look at him. His eyes never left that girl the entire meal. Picking out her scallions, putting meat in her bowl, treating her like she was made of glass. If that's not his wife, what is she, his long-lost sister? Lu Zhanbei had nothing to say to that. The commissar turned to Xiao Yanxi with fatherly advice. Old Xiao, let me give you a piece of wisdom. Every couple fights. Your wife traveled all this way, that means she still cares. If you want to make things right, you need to put in effort. You can't just sit there with that frozen face. Women need to be coaxed. Commissar Yu Guangyao gave Xiao Yanxi his best fatherly advice about winning back a wife. Xiao Yanxi's response was ice cold. Don't need to coax her. He stood up, dropped his tray at the return counter, and walked out without looking back. Lu Zhanbei chased after him, throwing an apologetic smile at the commissar. But Yu Guangyao just stroked his chin and smiled knowingly. Don't need to coax her? Who was he kidding? He'd just paraded me through the mess hall like a declaration of ownership. Meanwhile, Zhang Guifan dragged me to the family committee office to handle her military spouse registration. She slapped a stack of documents on Director Wang's desk: household registration, ID, introduction letter, transfer certificate. Director Wang was a stern-looking woman in her 40s with black-framed glasses. She checked everything, then handed over an application form. Fill this out. Neat handwriting, no corrections. This goes into the permanent file. Zhang Guifan's smile froze. She turned to me, embarrassed, and whispered, Wei Wei. I can't read. I can only write my own name. Could you fill it in for me? I'd already guessed. Of course, sister. I sat down and started writing. My brush-style calligraphy flowed across the paper. Clean, elegant strokes I'd practiced since I was a girl. Zhang Guifan's eyes went wide. Wei Wei, your handwriting is incredible. Her shout drew everyone's attention. Director Wang leaned over, and her jaw nearly dropped. This is gorgeous. Better than anything on our bulletin boards. A younger woman named Luo Xiaohong, wearing a propaganda committee badge, grabbed Director Wang's sleeve excitedly. Director, we have that group of trainee military wives visiting tomorrow, and nobody can write the bulletin board. If Comrade Tang does it, we'd look amazing. Director Wang slapped her thigh. Perfect. Her stern face melted into a warm smile. Comrade Tang, would you mind helping us with the bulletin board for tomorrow's event? No problem at all, I said with a polite smile. They showered me with praise. But inside, I was thinking something else entirely.
See?
A woman doesn't need to marry a man to survive. Skills have value too. The harmonious mood was broken when a woman walked in with 2 children. She wore a floral polyester blouse and 2 braids, looking rather petty and small-minded. I recognized her instantly. Shen Manli, my second brother's wife. The one who'd hung up on the police when they called asking her to help me. The moment our eyes met, her expression shifted. She immediately pretended not to know me and walked to another desk. I'm here to pick up this month's grain and cloth rations. Behind her were 2 children. The girl, about 5 or 6, wore a clean pink dress with a pretty ribbon in her hair, Tang Baobei, Shen Manli's precious daughter. The boy was a bit smaller, dressed in old, worn-out clothes with frayed sleeves, his face smudged with dirt, Tang Xiaoduo. In both my lifetimes, I'd noticed the same thing. My second sister-in-law favored her daughter and treated her son terribly. In my last life, I never had a chance to find out why. But this time, I was determined to understand. Why would a woman known for preferring sons over daughters be so cruel to her own boy? Little Xiaoduo spotted me right away. His face lit up and he tugged on Shen Manli's sleeve, pointing at me with his tiny finger.
Mama.
Mama, look. That's Auntie. Shen Manli's body went rigid. She turned and shot him a vicious glare, then discreetly kicked his shin. Don't talk nonsense. Go wait outside. The little boy stumbled, his lip trembling with hurt, but he didn't dare say another word. He shuffled quietly out the door. Shen Manli leaned down to her daughter and whispered, Sweetie, don't listen to your brother. Your Annie went on a matchmaking trip. She can't possibly be here, Shen Manli tried to whisper, but I heard every word. When our eyes met, she grabbed the grain and cloth rations from the workers' hands, stuffed them in her pocket, and dragged her daughter out the door without looking back. Like a ghost was chasing her. Everyone in the office stared after her, confused. That was my second sister-in-law. Just like the first one. Couldn't stand the sight of me. Zhang Guifan figured it out a beat later and exploded. Wei Wei, was that your second sister-in-law? I nodded. Yes, that woman. Zhang Guifan planted her hands on her hips and started yelling at the empty doorway. Her own husband's sister gets stranded on this island. harassed and nearly sold off, and she won't even come to help. Then she runs into you face to face and pretends she doesn't know you? What's chasing her, wolves? Her voice filled every corner of the office. Everyone heard. Luo Xiaohong, the propaganda committee member, came over and confirmed what I'd suspected. Don't be too upset, Sister Zhang. That's just how Shenmonli is. The military wives here have their own little factions. Shenmonli came from the city, thinks she's better than everyone. She leads a clique of other city wives, and they look down on wives from rural areas. She acts like she's above everyone, so that was it. Even this tiny island had its politics. I felt a pang of sadness for my second brother. Married to a woman like that, his children would suffer. Especially little Xiaoduo. His own mother treated him like garbage, and I still didn't understand why. Zhang Guifin squeezed my hand firmly. Wei Wei, don't be sad. A sister-in-law like that isn't worth knowing. You're staying with me in the compound, and nobody is going to bully you while I'm around. I thanked her. But in my heart, I only planned to stay 7 days. Once Uncle Zhou arrived, I was leaving. My life couldn't be tangled up with any military officer ever again. We were about to leave when the office door opened again. A middle-aged man in a crisp uniform walked in, upright posture, stern face, natural authority radiating from him. The room went quiet instantly. Luo Xiaohong and Director Wang snapped to attention.
Commissar, sir, it was you, Guangyao.
I'd never met him, so I just smiled politely and nodded. Luo Xiaohong jumped in to introduce me, showing off the application form I'd filled out. Commissar, this is Comrade Tang. Look at her handwriting. It's better than anything on our bulletin boards. We were hoping she could help us write the next issue. Director Wang nodded eagerly. She's truly talented. Yu Guangyao studied the form. The elegant calligraphy clearly impressed him. But I noticed something calculating behind his eyes, like he was forming a plan. Then he asked a question that made no sense. Which housing unit has Comrade Tang been assigned to? The whole room went still. Assigned housing? I was just a visitor. Visitors don't get assigned housing. Luo Xiaohong explained nervously. Commissar, Comrade Tang came with Sister Zhang Guifin. She's here as a visiting relative. She'd be staying at Zhang Guifin's home. Yu Guangyao slowly shook his head. His voice was calm, but carried absolute authority. That's incorrect. Those 2 words hit like ice. Director Wang's face went white. Luo Xiaohong froze. Incorrect? The family committee handled routine matters. How had they made a mistake big enough for the commissar himself to come correct it? Yu Guangyao raised a hand. Don't be nervous. His gaze swept past me, then settled on Director Wang. Assign Comrade Tang to compound number 6. My stomach dropped. I had a very bad feeling about this. This commissar had been watching me with a look I couldn't quite read, and whatever compound number 6 was, I was certain it had something to do with Xiao Yanxi. Compound number 6? Even I could tell something shifted in the room. Director Wang's eyes went wide. Apparently that compound was reserved for high-ranking officers, at least battalion commander level. A visitor like me had no business being assigned there. But Commissar Yu Guangyao was smooth. Very smooth. He turned to me with a warm, fatherly smile. Comrade Tang, I've already heard about your situation. My heart skipped. What exactly had he heard? About my divorce from Xiao Yanxi? About why I was really on this island? His smile reminded me of a fox, and it made my skin crawl. Then he said something that turned my face completely red. Zhang Guifin's husband Shi Hongfeng has been stationed here for years. They barely see each other. He only has 6 days of leave before his next mission. If you stay at their house, how are they supposed to have a proper reunion as husband and wife? I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I'd been married. I knew exactly what he meant by reunion. A young single woman sleeping in the next room while a couple who hadn't seen each other in months tried to reconnect? That was beyond awkward. I hadn't even thought about it. You're right, Commissar. I wasn't thinking. I'll just go back to the guest house. Nonsense. He waved that idea away instantly. We have plenty of empty houses in the compound. Compound 6 is close to the base, very convenient. Just stay there a few days. I hesitated. I didn't want to owe the military any favors, especially when I planned to leave in a week. He must have sensed my resistance because he shifted tactics. His smile faded, and his expression turned serious. Comrade Tang, since you feel uneasy about it, let me ask you a favor instead. That got my attention. If I could repay the kindness through work, that was much better than owing a debt. Of course, Commissar. Whatever I can do. He leaned back casually like he was discussing the weather. That compound is being assigned to a military officer next month. He's a particular type. A bachelor, very picky, has a bit of a cleanliness obsession. The house has been empty for a while and it's covered in dust. Our soldiers are all rough hands. They'd never clean it to his standards. He looked at me with that reasonable, trustworthy expression. You're a woman, careful, detail-oriented. Could you tidy the place up while you're staying there? Make it feel like a home? That way you get a place to stay, and you're helping the base at the same time. Fair trade. His logic was airtight. I wasn't freeloading, I was doing a job. Living there, and cleaning it up in exchange. That sat right with me. Deal, I said without hesitation. I'll make sure it's spotless. A flash of triumph crossed his eyes, so fast I almost missed it. Wonderful. Wang, get Comrade Tang the keys to Compound 6. Director Wang snapped out of her daze and fumbled a set of keys off the wall cabinet. She handed them to me with a strange expression on her face, like she knew something I didn't. The cold metal keys felt solid in my palm. Finally, a place of my own, even if it was only for 7 days. Zhang Guifan pulled my arm. Come on, Wei Wei. I know where Compound 6 is. It's not far from my place. We can visit each other easily. I smiled and followed her out, feeling lighter than I had in days. I had no idea that behind me, Commissar Yu was watching my back with the satisfied grin of a man who just pulled off a masterpiece. And I definitely didn't know what Director Wang and the others were thinking as we left. That Compound 6 was the house being prepared for Commander Xiao Yanxi. The commissar had just tricked me into moving into my ex-husband's future home and cleaning it up like a dutiful wife. Lushan Island was a special place. Any officer above deputy company level or with over 10 years of service could bring their family to live on base. So the military compound was full of military wives, and where there are many wives, there's gossip. News about me spread through the compound like wildfire. A mysterious, beautiful girl with no official military spouse status, personally assigned to Compound 6 by the commissar himself? That was the juiciest thing that had happened in months. By the time the story reached Commissar Yu's wife, Zhou Fengying, it had been twisted beyond recognition. The version she heard was that her husband had been bewitched by a pretty fox spirit from the city and was hiding her in Compound 6 like a secret mistress. Zhou Fengying was a straightforward woman with a fierce temper. She slammed her corn cob on the table, stood up, and rallied her closest military wife friends. Let's go. I want to see which goddess thinks she can steal my husband. A whole squad of angry women marched toward Compound 6, ready for war. I knew nothing about any of this. I just helped Zhang Guifan carry her luggage home. Her husband Shi Hongfeng was waiting, a dark, sturdy man who couldn't stop grinning when he saw his wife. The way he looked at her, eyes glued to her face, sticky with longing. The meaning was obvious. I understood completely. In my past life, when I first joined Xiao Yanxi at the base, he'd been the same way. Actually, worse. My face got warm just thinking about it. I excused myself quickly. Being a giant light bulb between two reuniting lovebirds was the last thing anyone needed. I found Compound 6 easily. It was bigger than Zhang Guifan's place, a standalone house with a front yard and back garden, quiet and private. But inside, it was a disaster. Empty except for a bare wooden bed frame. Spider webs in every corner, a thick layer of dust on the floor. This was supposed to be home for a man with a cleanliness obsession? I almost laughed. I decided to just clean the area around the bed for now, lay down my own sheets, and deal with the rest tomorrow. I found an old broom in the corner and was rolling up my sleeves when the courtyard gate crashed open. A crowd of women stood in the doorway. Leading them was a woman in her 40s, hands on her hips, face full of fury, staring me down. Zhou Fengying, here to catch her husband's mistress. But the moment she got a good look at my face, she froze completely. All those insults she'd prepared, fox spirit, shameless woman, got stuck in her throat. I could practically read her thoughts. Her husband was a big, dark, rough-looking man. The idea that he could attract someone who looked like me was absolutely laughable. The military wives behind her were just as stunned. They'd seen plenty of women in the compound over the years, but apparently none quite like me. The courtyard went dead silent. They all just stood there, staring. I didn't know any of them, but from their clothes, I guessed they were military wives from the compound. I had no idea why they'd charged in looking ready to fight, but I knew one thing. A smile disarms anger faster than words. I put down the broom and gave them my warmest, most polite expression. "Hello, sisters." My voice came out soft and sweet, that southern girl accent I'd never quite lost. The word, sisters, seemed to melt something in them. Zhou Fengming's hands slowly dropped from her hips, and the hostility on every face began to fade. Zhou Fengming was still standing there stunned, but another woman pushed forward. Lu Ergui, the mother of a deputy battalion commander. She was the type who loved watching powerful families embarrass themselves. She elbowed Zhou Fengming and said in a loud whisper that everyone could hear, "Fengming, don't be fooled by that pretty face. These fox spirits always look innocent. That's how they trap honest men like your old you, fox spirit." Those two words hit me like a slap. In my past life, that's exactly what Xiao Shuiying had the other military wives call me. She spread the rumor that I'd seduced Xiao Yanxi with nothing but my looks. I was young and proud back then, too proud to explain myself. So I got isolated, bullied, and miserable. This time, I would not make the same mistake. I took a deep breath, pushed down the emotions churning inside me, and put on my softest, most harmless smile. "Sisters, is something wrong?" Zhou Fengming couldn't stay angry at that. "We just want to know, why are you living in Compound 6? Before I could answer, Lu Ergui jumped in again, pointing at Zhou Fengming dramatically. "This is Commissar Yu's wife. You'd better tell the truth, little girl." She was deliberately fanning the flames, trying to force Zhou Fengming into playing the stern, jealous wife. I saw right through her. This old woman wanted chaos. I looked at Zhou Fengming with warm, sincere eyes. "Sister Fengming, you're the Commissar's wife? No wonder you carry yourself so well." Then I told her everything, plainly, honestly, without exaggeration. How my brother and sister-in-law tricked me into coming to the island, how they abandoned me, how Zhang Guifan helped me, and how Commissar Yu arranged for me to stay here temporarily. He said the compound was empty, and asked me to clean it up for a military officer with a cleanliness obsession who's moving in soon. Today was the first time I ever met the Commissar. Zhou Fengming knew her husband inside and out. She immediately saw through his scheme. Cleanliness obsession? Cleaning duty? That was classic old Yu. He wasn't hiding a mistress. He was playing matchmaker, trying to set up this pretty girl with some eligible bachelor on base. The suspicion melted from her face. She even walked into the empty house and looked around. Bare wooden bed, cobwebs, thick dust everywhere. "You're sleeping on this?" she frowned. I smiled shyly. "I'm already imposing on the military, Sister Fengming. Having a roof is more than enough. I can't afford to be picky." Something in her expression shifted. A pretty, educated city girl, and not a trace of arrogance. Polite, humble, grateful. Zhou Fengming was warming up to me fast, but Lu Ergui wasn't done. She followed us inside, still stirring trouble. "Oh, Fengming, you believe whatever she says? Sweet words are cheap. Who knows what she's really up to behind closed doors? That was her last mistake." Zhou Fengming spun around, her face dark as a storm cloud. "Lu Ergui, you really want my husband to have a moral scandal that badly? You think if he goes down, your deputy battalion commander's son will magically become the next commissar?" The words landed like a bomb. Lu Ergui's deepest, pettiest ambitions, ripped out and laid bare for everyone to see. Her face went from red to white to green. She couldn't get a single word out. The other wives stared at her with open contempt. My soup is still on the stove," she stammered, and fled the compound like a dog with its tail between its legs. The drama evaporated as fast as it had started. Zhou Fengming watched her go, with a cold snort, then turned back to me. Something sparked in her eyes. A bold new idea. She grabbed my hand with sudden warmth and enthusiasm. Wei, I'm sorry about that mess just now. Let me make it up to you. Come to my place tonight. I'll make braised pork, and I'll round up the most handsome young soldiers on base to put on a boxing demonstration for you. What do you say, huh? I was completely thrown off by Zhou Fengming's suggestion. Watch soldiers do military boxing? In 2 lifetimes with Xiao Yanxi, he never once performed for me. Though he did say he practiced every single day, without fail. That's why his body was so hard and solid, especially his abs. My face caught fire. Even my ears turned pink. Zhou Fengming had no idea where my thoughts had gone. She just saw me blushing like a ripe apple and figured she'd scared me.
I'm kidding.
Just joking. She laughed and patted my hand. Then her eyes swept the empty room and locked on the bare wooden bed. Her expression turned serious. You're sleeping on that? This won't do. 1 night on those boards and your bones will fall apart. I tried to refuse. Sister Fengming, really, it's fine. I'm already imposing. Imposing nothing. She cut me off with a wave of her hand, full of authority. You're a young woman who was tricked and dumped here by her own family. You think the military is going to let you suffer? What kind of message would that send? She made her decision on the spot. Stay right here. Don't go anywhere. I'm getting you proper bedding, a mattress, a wash basin, and a thermos from the family committee. I panicked. Sister Fengming, I can't. I'm not a military wife. I have no right to take those things. It's against the rules. But she was already out the door, moving like a hurricane. Rules are rules, but people are people. Just wait. I stood there with my hand still reaching out, stuck between laughing and crying. This woman was the exact opposite of every military wife who'd bullied me in my past life. My guard, the constant wariness I'd been carrying since arriving on this island, softened just a little. Maybe these few days here wouldn't be so bad after all. I picked up the broom and started sweeping. Outside, Zhou Fengming was immediately surrounded by the other wives, desperate for gossip. She set them straight with a laugh. You really think my old you, black as charcoal, built like a brick, could attract a girl who looks like a fairy? Please. He's playing matchmaker. He put her in the empty compound so he can introduce her to one of our single officers. That explanation clicked instantly for everyone. The base had plenty of unmarried men, and the leadership was always worrying about it. Of course, the commissar would try to set up a beautiful, educated girl with an eligible bachelor. The military wives' eyes lit up like they'd found treasure. Gone was the suspicion. Now I was a prized potential bride. Zhou Fengming took charge immediately. All right, stop standing around. Go home and think about every decent, single officer your husbands know. In the next few days, find excuses to bring them by Compound 6, say you're visiting, whatever. Let Wei get a look at them. Whoever makes a match happen, I'll have old you write you a commendation. The wives exploded with excitement. Matchmaking was their favorite hobby. What about platoon leader Zhang from 3rd Battalion? He's 28, reliable, good salary. Zhang is too dark. Political instructor Li from 2nd Battalion is better. High school graduate, fair-skinned, refined. None of those are good enough. What about? They rattled off every single bachelor on the island. But not one of them dared mention Commander Xiao Yanxi. That man was a terrifying ice sculpture from a powerful capital family. Nobody had a death wish. Zhou Fengming listened to the chatter, but a thought kept nagging at her. All those men they mentioned, none of them quite measured up to someone like me. If she was being honest, the only man on all of Lushan Island who could match me in looks was Commander Xiao himself. One cool as moonlight, the other handsome as a god. If those two got together, she thought, imagine how beautiful the children would be. Zhou Fengming laughed at her own wild imagination and shook it off. Her husband had mentioned that Commander Xiao already had someone in his heart. No point going there. She started toward the family committee, then stopped mid-step. Wait, she needed to check with old you first. If he already had a specific bachelor in mind for me, she didn't want to mess up his plan. She burst into his office and found him leaning back with his legs crossed, sipping tea from a big enamel mug. Old you, tell me the truth. Which bachelor are you setting that girl up with? I'll help. The smug look on his face vanished. He set down the mug with a clunk and sighed deeply. My dear wife, please stop making things more complicated. He leaned in close and dropped his voice to barely a whisper. Do you know who she is? Who? He spoke each word like he was hammering nails.
She is Xiao
Yanxi's wife. Zhou Fengying's jaw hit the floor. She grabbed his arm so hard he winced. Say that again. Whose wife? Xiao Yanxi's. Her brain short-circuited. That fairy-like girl in Compound 6 was the terrifying Commander Zhao's runaway wife. Then why was she tricked here for matchmaking? Where is Xiao Yanxi? How can he just watch his wife suffer like this? Yu Guangyao chuckled and leaned in conspiratorially. What do you think? The young couple had a fight. Remember when we first got married? You ran home to your mother, and she tried to set you up with the deputy manager at the textile factory. If I hadn't chased you down that same night with apologies and promises, Zhou Fengying blushed. She remembered. She'd actually considered meeting that deputy manager. Everything clicked. Her protective instincts fired up like a furnace. I knew it. Wei Wei is a sweet, polite girl. No way she's the type who can't make a marriage work. Old Yu, we have to fix this. We have to get those two back together. She was already building her case. Think about it, a stable home means a focused soldier. Xiao Yanxi is our youngest regimental commander. If his personal life is a mess, how can he lead properly? This isn't just about romance. It's about military readiness. Yu Guangyao smiled. This was exactly what he wanted to hear. That's why I kept her here. And there's more. He paused for effect. I already had Xiao Zhang process her official military spouse registration. All the stamps are done. It's formal. Zhou Fengying's eyes went wide. That fast. Has to be. She says she's leaving in 7 days. We have 7 days to get these two to reconcile. Zhou Fengying was on fire now. I'm going to the family committee right now. Bedding, mattress, thermos, wash basin. She gets everything a proper military wife is entitled to. She stormed out and started mobilizing wives like a general deploying troops. You find any spare tables and chairs. I need your furniture ticket. Move it all to Compound 6. Then she rushed back with one final order for her husband. Go find Xiao Yanxi right now and tell him to visit Compound 6 tonight. If he's too stubborn, tell him dinner at our place. I'm making braised pork. We'll lure him over and push him through her door. Yu Guangyao nodded, grinning. Go handle your end. Leave mine to me. I knew nothing about any of this. I'd just finished sweeping and wiping down the empty house. The windows were sparkling clean, the floor was spotless, and even though the place was still bare, it finally looked livable. I'd barely straightened up and wiped the sweat from my forehead when shadows appeared at the courtyard gate. Zhou Fengying marched in carrying a brand new military green thermos, followed by a parade of military wives. They were loaded down with thick cotton quilts, a fresh mattress, a wash basin, mess kits, everything clattering and jingling like a small army of supplies. Wei Wei,
take a break.
Your big sister brought everything you need. The supplies landed on the floor with a thud. That military green thermos with the bright red characters reading, "Serve the people." It was identical to the one I'd been issued in my past life when I was an actual military wife. The mattress, the bedding, everything was exactly like before. My mind went blank. Then a wife named Sister Li pulled out furniture tickets and pressed them into my hands. Wei Wei, Fengying says you need a proper cabinet. Take these to the logistics department tomorrow. I stared at the tickets in my hands, completely confused. I wasn't the military wife. I was divorced. I had no military spouse registration. How could I be receiving all this? Sister Fengying, is this really okay? I shouldn't be taking these things. She just smiled, a smile that looked eerily like her husband's. Of course it's okay. You're helping set up the house for that officer, right? Someone has to get the supplies ready. You think a big clumsy man is going to do it properly? He'd just make a mess and waste training time. That actually made sense. I'd seen how bare the place was. If the officer with the cleanliness obsession walked into this dust bowl, he really would lose his mind. Okay then, Sister Fengying. Whatever you say. Outside the courtyard wall, hidden in the shadows, Commissar Yu Guangyao stood with someone at his side. Xiao Yanxi, tall, rigid in his crisp uniform, cold as a marble statue. Yu Guangyao nudged him with an elbow. She's in there. Want to go see her? But Xiao Yanxi didn't move. He watched me through the trees, his dark eyes unreadable. He knew exactly what Yu Guangyao was doing, setting him up, engineering a reunion. But he also knew me too well. If he walked in now, I'd realize everyone had been conspiring, and I'd see him as the mastermind. With my temper, I'd slap him in front of everyone and walk away forever. He couldn't let things get that bad again. The divorce had been ugly enough. I'm going to check on the soldiers' training, he said flatly, and walked away without looking back. Yu Guangyao followed, smiling like a fox. He raised his voice deliberately loud enough to carry over the wall. Yes, yes. Training is the top priority. In his head he was thinking, go ahead, pretend you don't care. Let's see how long that lasts. Inside the courtyard, the wives' energy drowned out everything else. Zhou Fengming ran her hand along the rough wall and asked me what flowers I liked. The question triggered memories from my past life. When Xiao Yanxi was away and Xiao Shuiying had turned every wife against me, I'd survived those lonely days by growing flowers and raising chickens. Just me and the garden. Bougainvillea would do well here, I said quietly. Hibiscus too, and small roses. They suit the island climate. Zhou Fengming's eyes lit up. You know about gardening? Sister Li immediately offered to bring over some hibiscus cuttings from her overgrown pots. I tried to refuse. This wasn't my house. I couldn't make decisions for the real owner. But she waved me off. Nobody else is living here. Right now, you're the lady of this house. Of course it should be set up the way you like. Exactly, another wife chimed in. Men don't know anything about making a home. It's the woman of the house who decides. Woman of the house. Those words stung in an unexpected way. In my last life, I'd been Xiao Yanxi's legal wife, but Xiao Shuiying kept stealing my place. The other wives treated me with suspicion and distance. They called me a spoiled city girl, said I didn't deserve Xiao Yanxi, called me an outsider. But here, in this life, I was divorced, had no military spouse status, was basically nobody. And these island wives had accepted me completely, without hesitation, treating me like one of their own. A warmth I hadn't felt in a long time spread through my chest. These women were nothing like the ones from before. I took a breath and smiled. Then thank you, sister. Let me clear out that corner by the wall. It'll be perfect for planting. Let's go. Sister Li grabbed my arm. Come help me carry the pots. I'll show you around the compound while we're at it. She dragged me out the gate before I could say another word. Zhou Fengming watched us go, shaking her head with a mix of amusement and concern.